So today we're at the Long Beach Public Library and we are doing an oral history reporting of Mr. Harvey Weisenberg's life. And it is May 6, 2021. And Mr. Weisenberg is with us today to talk about his history from the day he was born until now. And I'm so glad to have you with us today. And this has been a very, very exciting research for me because I've learned so much more about not only about you, but about all the things that you have accomplished in your lifetime and how we each have our path and how yours has helped a lot of people. Mr. Weisenberg, thank you for joining us today. And we're going to start by going back to December 31st, 1933. What's so special about that day?
Well, thank you for having me, having the opportunity to be able to speak to the public, to people. God gave me an angel in my life, a saint, and a mission. The angel in my life was a special child, Ricky, who could never speak or cry and is blind, but gives love. The saint I was blessed with was my wife, Ellen. We spent more than 50 years together, a lifetime of love, caring, and friendship, and a mission in my life is being capable of doing what I can to help people. And in the world we live today, well, when I go back to when I was born, by the way, I only weighed 4 pounds and I was in an incubator, but that wasn't so bad because I was with a girl. And I had the pleasure of having a mother and a father who were always there, giving love and security and an understanding of what life is really all about. And the primary information that was given to myself and my sister was the fact of how important it is to be able to have an ability to help people. We live in a world where today success is defined as power and money. People in public service today seek public and money, and they call that success. The answer really, as a public servant and as an elected official for 38 years, but my whole life, even as a child, was to be able to give love and help people. I had the ability to use my positions to be able to get the reward that's most important. And the reward of public service is really the thank yous that you get for helping others.
That's correct.
And it's very hard in the world that we live in today that people don't seem to care about people. And as I said, being an elected official and a public servant in a small city, Long Beach is 3 miles long, half a mile wide, population about 35,000. But how blessed and lucky I was, and we were in Long Beach, to go to kindergarten and go all the way through elementary school, junior high school, and high school with the same friends. And the diversity of our population was always mixed. And we learned from each other, and we gave love to each other. And it was just a wonderful opportunity and environment to grow up in. That's why Long Beach was so atypical as to other facilities or places in the state of New York. Probably Long Beach is the most handicap accessible community because we're aware that God gave us the most beautiful beach and a boardwalk, 2 miles on the boardwalk. And anybody and everybody has an opportunity for not only socialization, but to be able to use the resources that God gave us to help agencies who provide necessities for other children or people with needs to be able to raise funding. And Long Beach was known, I guess, nationally, because we're blessed with such wonderful people would take the time to not only enjoy themselves, but give love and give happiness to whoever is here within our community.
So let's go back now, and we're going to start a little bit back to when you were little. Now, we know that you were born in the Bronx, and you were December 31st, 1933. You were born premature, as you said, at 4 pounds, and you were an incubator. Your mother is such a beautiful woman. And in this photo that's on here, you're about a year old. And it just shows the love, and your face and your eyes, you're so bright. And it's amazing that how a portrayal of somebody in a picture could say so much. It speaks for itself about the love that you have from your mom. Your mother's name?
Renee.
Weisenberg. And of course, you're from the Bronx. And describe your mother to me. What was she like?
Well, it's more, let's go to the family. My mother, first my grandmother, Kate. My grandmother, Kate, had my mother, Renee, and 3 other sisters, Gladys, Maxine, and Mildred. And we grew up together. I mean, they grew up together. They were in show business. They were in vaudeville. They were all blessed, musically inclined. As a matter of fact, my Aunt Maxine, at 4 years old, was a star, and she had higher billing than Milton Berle. But the show business was always within our family, the music. Not only were they singers and dancers, but socially, they all lived. Usually not more than a block away from each other. Everybody was together. This is one family that every occasion, any holiday, we had our families. And the 4 women had first sons. 2 years later, the 4 women had boys. So the girls, the mothers, had their brothers and sisters now. But we were together all the time. The only person that lived any kind of a distance away from Long Beach was my Aunt Gladys, who lived in Brooklyn. Her husband was a dentist in Brooklyn. But every Sunday, we would be at Grandma Rainey's at 25 West Broadway, where I lived. We lived in an apartment house, and every Sunday, the family was together. Every holiday, we were at Aunt Millie's house in Long Beach. And what we used to do when Aunt Gladys would call from Brooklyn, and she'd say, I'm not coming out, it's raining. And we'll say, the sun is out in Long Beach. Of course, it wasn't, but she would come down and, oh, surprise, we were all together again as usual. But I want dinner or understanding our family with the music background, with the singing, the dancing, and the grandchildren ended up with music. It was always a happy occasion. I mean, the boardwalk, what we had in Long Beach, the recreation resources that we have in our city, with the swimming pool and with the ocean. We were together every summer, and we had nothing but happy days. And how blessed and lucky we were. But I just really think that we're going to go further than my mother and father. My father was a very strong man. That's a picture of my dad that you're seeing, and my mom at the beach. He was 6 foot, about 220, 230. And during the war, he worked in a defense plant, and they had contests who carried the heaviest or the most steel. And of course, he would win that. He used to, I remember as a kid watching them on the beach throwing a medicine ball. Now, people said they wouldn't know what a medicine ball is, but it was a heavy ball. And they would throw it, and they used to box on the beach. And, of course, everybody was athletic and healthy because look where we are, Long Beach, America's healthiest city. We're so healthy in Long Beach, we don't even have a funeral home. Oh, but and nothing changed. We still don't have a funeral home. But when you see our parents together with our aunts and uncles, you knew what love was really all about because everybody cared, took care of each other, and supported each other. It was a different world than what exists today, obviously. because there was so much contact and love and togetherness and only happy occasions.
That's beautiful. What was some of the things that your mom made that you loved, and your grandmother too? Because I know you celebrated a lot of holidays in your grandmother's house. What were some of the special things that they used to make?
Well, my mother's apple pie was the best. And of course, she didn't give the recipe to anybody. She said, I did a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but everybody loved mom's apple pie. My father, big man, we ate everything. And again, with the weather and the environment we were in, and we had so many outdoor activities that we could participate in. But food, well, that's part of, I guess, our nature. We were all good eaters. And again, sharing many good things, pasta, barbecuing, nothing better than a hot dog. And then look at the store. We had a Hebrew National on the boardwalk in Long Beach, and we had Karen's for ice cream.
Didn't you work there?
Wilders for ice cream.
Didn't you work there a long time ago?
When I was 14 years old, and we had a miniature golf course, I used to work at a miniature golf course, Wilders, Karen's ice cream store, and as young people, we used to go out and collect soda bottles. They were 2 cents a piece, deposits, and we used to go down the beach collecting bottles and turning them into the stands. But there was always activities. Long Beach is recreation.
So we were talking about Waller's ice cream and how you used to work up in the boardwalk, and wonderful photograph of you when you're very little. And is this your cousin?
Cousin
Donald. And what are you eating? Ice cream.
Absolutely.
Perfect timing.
But I want you, but notice
Yes.
how close
Yes.
as young kids. But this is our family.
Mhm.
This is the love that we had for so many years together.
Yes.
But I mean, I'm looking back at these photographs, and they just really have to make you smile.
They do, of course, because this is your memories.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
They're good times.
Absolutely. Happy days.
Yes, happy days, and more to come, because our childhood memories are very special. And sharing of food, as you said, in holidays. And it's interesting because you were so tiny when you were born, 4 pounds. I know you had told me a story that they were always trying to get you to eat. They used to give you a lot of things to eat to try to get you to gain weight.
No, I remember my mother used to tell me that she would invite, my mother's a great cook, and she would have plenty of food and bring in other kids. And I'd be riding by on my bicycle, and she would come with a spoon. Here, eat this. But I developed an appetite, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the creativity that our people. And there were times monetarily things were difficult in those days when you really think back, and food was important, and people did without food because they didn't have the resources. But we always seemed to do the best that we could with what we had. But I know how difficult times were because people were suffering at that time, monetary availability.
It's the Depression.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we were just all happy and together, and just being together gave us the happiness that we needed.
That's true. So let's go to the next slide. Here's a great photo. You guys are at the beach a lot, I will tell you. I love the photograph of you guys hanging out at the beach. You're a little bit older here. And of course, I think this shot must be a school picture. And you went to Central?
Absolutely. Cyrus Levinson was a principal. And it's so interesting that you remember your teachers from elementary school. I remember Miss Kelly from kindergarten. And you can go, Miss Hatch, Miss Greenbaum. I mean, you can go through all the faculty,
Right.
But they were part of your life.
Of course.
And I'm a very strong believer, and I honestly, MS, say this, that anybody and everybody I ever met is part of my life. Some were good people, some weren't so good, but they were all still part of your life. And that's what I think made me happy, because we had so much positive life experiences because of parents and relatives and friends. Because when you're a happy person and you meet other happy people, you share your happiness. And that was the environment that lived in the city of Long Beach. And the diversity of our population certainly was our strength, because in Long Beach, everybody cared about and loved each other. Times have changed.
This is a beautiful photo that you shared with me of your sister, Brenda, and yourself. About how old do you think you are there?
Well,
Like 10?
I was going to say 10.
Yeah.
And my sister, there was nobody. Everybody loved my sister.
Yeah.
Even in growing up, Brenda's the girl they're going to marry.
Hmm.
And it's interesting. Everybody loved Brenda. She was a head majorette. She was musically inclined, a great musical talent. And, you know, I have to smile when I think back when she was dating, because I was a police officer at that time. And when somebody came to the door, I had a gun on my hip. And I just make sure you behave yourself when you come home safe. But, and I said, Brenda was a social worker. My mother was a social worker, not in title, but in life.
Mm-hmm.
She took care of all of my friends and all of Brenda's friends, and everybody came, and Brenda is the same way.
Right.
Brenda grew to be and was honored as a woman of distinction for the state of New York for the many years of dedication working as a social worker in the elder homes for people, nursing
Mm-hmm.
homes, but it was there going into schools and talking and helping students, convicts, but she was always out there reaching out and helping people.
Yes.
To this day, she's a blessed angel.
Well, it runs in the family.
Yeah, that's
So now we could see your family that you were talking about a little bit earlier, about your aunts
yes.
and your Uncle Albert. And your mom, of course, is in there. And I see your dad. Just tell us a little bit about the photos.
Well, it's a group photos of my aunts and my uncles. My on the top is my grandfather, Kate. That's Grandma Kate in the middle, and that's my grandfather, Louis. I think he was in the fur business, if I remember back. And then Aunt Millie married Uncle Buster, who ended up as a city manager in Long Beach and worked in the state in the deputy controller's office. So my Uncle Saul, a terrific person with musical talent, played the banjo, sang, he just was an entertainer, born entertainer.
Right. And your two aunts, they look very like they're in a show.
They were Lois sisters. They were in vaudeville.
Wow.
As I said before, let's see, Uncle Lippy was a dentist, and he's the one who ran Gladys in Brooklyn. And he was an avid Dodger fan. I mean, the Dodgers were playing. You didn't want to sit in his dental chair because you never know what's going to happen next. Was he? But after going to the dentist, we would end up going to Ebbets Field, watching the Dodgers. Uncle Saul, as I mentioned, a very, very funny guy, and always had a terrific sense of humor. Uncle Al. Uncle Al was special. We all lived in the Broadway, by the way, the 25 West Broadway, except that Millie had a house in Long Beach. As I said, Gladys was in Brooklyn, and Maxine was in Long Beach, and our families were, as I said, always geographically together.
Yeah.
But and we enjoyed everything about each other, and it was very interesting because one would outsing the other, and the other one was a director, and the other one wrote music, and then they would demonstrate, and they would be dancing around the house and singing. It was just a life experience of just happiness. Yeah,
that actually helps a lot, because when things are not so good outside, your inside of your home actually helps you to get through the bad times. And having that wonderful talent actually helps you. Music's a gift.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it goes to generation.
Yes.
We have children and grandchildren that are musically inclined to this day. I mean, it's amazing. We have children that are so talented. I mean, it's a gift from God. I think people who have artistic talent, musical talent, I mean, it's so wonderful to be able to create and produce and show and share all the happiness that you have within yourself to share it with others.
That's true. Now we're in school and I see your uncle, right? Isn't he
That's
the city
Uncle
manager?
Buster shaking hands with
Yes.
a young man by the name of Vicky, myself, Harry Sachs, Chester Feldman, let's see, Lefflin, his father was a urban woman. I mean, it's just friends.
This is
It's a
yes.
recreation program. It's pre-high school.
Pre-high school, and it looks like you guys all won an award.
Yes,
Which
well,
is
that was Long
beautiful.
Beach Recreation. And I have to say about Long Beach Recreation, Al Newman and Jimmy McCabe, names that people today won't know, but were the most wonderful. We had the best recreation program, I think, in the state of New York. Of course, the Long Beach is recreation, but we had different leagues and different opportunities, and we had very, very many, very successful athletically because of the geographical conditions that we had here and our faculty and staff in our schools.
Yes. And now we're in high school. Long Beach High School, of course,
Yes.
at the time was at Lindell, 1940 WPA. So this would have been the high school when you were in school. And I like the shots because you're in track. I see that in here, but in your high school yearbook as well, it says that you were basketball captain, you were track captain, football, New York State 440-yard champ, Long Island 440-yard champ, the junior and senior council, traffic squad, and varsity. So you were a busy young man. It's interesting because the cooperative, when you're in sports, cooperation is so important. And this is where it comes most with you because everything you do is cooperatively. And it works out in sports that it was to your advantage.
The friendships that are here. The picture with the car, that's David Chertoff, who died at a young age, and Eli Alterat, Harvey Feldman, and Stan Price. That's leaning against the car. On the four-track relay team was Norman Lipset, Joe Bloom, Tommy Snow, and myself, and our coach, Herb Gold. You know, we, like I say, so blessed. As a matter of fact, to this day, we have a memorial bench on the boardwalk that I bought in honor of my coaches because they were so wonderful and so important in that part of our life. When people were doing going the wrong way, the discipline and the teamwork and the effort of working together and the respect that we had for each other. You know, it's like anything else. And I coached ball teams. I coached basketball, midget football, CYO baseball, basketball in high school. It was just wonderful opportunities to share the talent that we learned from our coaches, Bobby Gersten, Herb Gold, Roy Elwood. I mean, we have a memorial bench on the boardwalk just thanking them for the wonderful, wonderful gift that they gave us. Roy Elwood, he played professional football. And I was a state quarter mile champ. And we used to run wind sprints. Roy Elwood was one step behind me. Yeah, he was amazing. Herb Gold, funniest guy and the best friend. When I won the state championship at West Point, and Herb Gold always gave me the philosophy, he said, get out in front and stay there and never lose. So listen to my coach. And he used to smoke a cigar. And I used to say I ran the court as fast as I could. I came back and I had a cigar. But and he used to go to Lindale School and he had a dog, an Irish setter. He said, "Don't worry, he don't bite." So I'm running the track, and the next thing I know, this thing was nipping at my legs. But it really is a funny story. He had a very little dog, and they went on vacation, and they left the dog with us, and we dressed the dog up, my daughters, and they dressed him up and they put him in a baby carriage, and I used to take him on the boardwalk, and I used to run every day, so I had his dog run. When he came back from vacation, he said, "What'd you do to my dog?" I said, "I got him in shape."
That was adorable.
But and Bobby Gersten, God bless him, he was the best, a heck of an athlete in North Carolina. He was an All-American to me and to everybody else. He owned Brantway Camp, but
Yes.
what an athlete, what a ball player,
And what I
and what
did
a
is,
coach.
this is the shot from your bench up on the boardwalk, and you
Yes.
can see it.
I do. I appreciate that. Dedicated and honored to three exceptional coaches and mentors: Roy Elwood, Bobby Gersten, and Herb Gold. With that exception, they recognize the potential of every athlete and share their personal paths to strength, fortitude, and integrity with so many generations who grew a little taller, having known them. They and their families will always be remembered with love and respect. I choke up.
It's beautiful.
I choke up because that's how much love
Yes.
we had from them. And they were just loved by every student. Look how lucky we were. I mean, I just feel that I don't see this happiness today. And I've been involved, for many years. It's just a whole different world. And again, I thank God for what we had. And that's what Long Beach really is all about.
Yes. And we have two more benches dedicated on the boardwalk with two of your very good friends.
Yeah, liberal Harry Butler, Kurt Combert, Combert Caterers, Lincoln Hotel, where family ran that, and Temple of Oda, now in Oceanside. But we went to school together. Liberal Harry was a police officer with me. They were great athletes, and we just they passed on at an early age. It's just sad, but you know what? They'll always be remembered. And we have so many members, friends on the boardwalk. God bless Long Beach with our benches, that you can go and you can just sort of say a prayer and be thankful for the, I don't mourn anybody anymore. I celebrate the life that we had. And I thank God for the opportunity to have had friends like these guys.
Yes.
And there were so many because we all were friends in Long Beach.
Of course. It's beautiful. And I actually spoke to Kurt Combert's daughter, and she provided me the photo. She's lovely, lovely young woman. And she's also a chef.
Please.
So now we're headed off to college, and you got a scholarship to Niagara?
Yes, I graduated high school in February of '52, mid-year graduation in Long Beach. And I was on a basketball team, Bobby Gersten's team, and we had a great basketball program. I think we lost one game at home in 4 years. But I mean, all of our players, East End, West End, from all over Long Beach, and the coaching was so superior that we had so many young people, and I can go on into this because we're going to Niagara. I got all boys Catholic school. I joined Jewish guy into school. In the mid-year, I went up there in February, and everybody was on their knees saying the rosary when I came in. I said, "Is this a greeting for me?" And I really wasn't. And people came to see me. They came to my room because they came from all over the state of New York. I guess they didn't know what a Jewish person looked like, but they were there checking me out. But we got to be known because of the reaching out to everybody. And my teachers were, many of them were priests. And I've always had respect, and I had very good friends. And, I'm one of the people, and that's the way Long Beach is. We're sort of like non-sectarian, I should say. Long Beach, when I got bar mitzvah, the audience was, and the people there were mostly not Jewish. And then I would be at midnight mass with them on occasion, on Christmas. And of course, what were you doing there? We're doing that because that's who we are. And that's the love and respect. And I'm just, thinking about what's happening in the world today, and not the love and affection, but we're all God's children, and people have to understand that there is a God, and your life is there, but we can't tolerate the lack of respect and dignity to all people. That's part of the success that we had in growing up in Long Beach, because that's the way our community is and was. Everybody cared about each other.
So then from Niagara, we go to, is it Rollins? You went to Rollins?
Well, I left Niagara, and I had all my friends who were basketball players, and I had many friends, and I said, we're all going to go voluntary drafted because Korea was taking place at this time. And I was at the Jewish War Vets, and we had breakfast. I was in charge of the bus. And remember, I was a state quarter-mile champion and a good athlete and always in shape. And I was in charge, and I got to Whitehall Street and with my friends, and that's for a final exam. And the person examining me said, you had asthma? I said, yes, I had asthma. You can go home. I said, I can't go home. I had everybody come. We all quit school, college together and come here. No, I can't do that. He said, we can't take you. You had asthma. I went next door to the Marines. I said, please take me. Please take me. No, he told me, get out of there. And I ended up coming home. And I remember my father was crying when I was leaving. And I had to come back and say, well, I can't go anywhere. So I think Bobby Gersten got the word out, and Rollins College in Winter Park, Florida, offered me a scholarship. So unbelievable school, Rollins College.
Yeah.
It was a millionaire school. And the wonderful faculty, staff. But the thing that I loved most, I had an orange tree in the back and a grapefruit tree in the back out the window. As I said, in Winter Park, Florida, beautiful, only 4 miles from Orlando. But, and some of the victories in basketball, it was very interesting because we're going to end up playing one of the big schools from New York. We played NYU. And, and my friends that I grew up with and played basketball with. So we didn't have to scout them. I knew them well. And Rollins College from Winter Park, Florida, beat NYU. And it's really funny. I mean, we were playing NYU, and there was a DeBonis on the other team. And to this day, a very dear friend, he's almost like a son to me, is Bobby DeBonis, and it's his relative. And I sort of pushed him a little bit when he stepped in my way and put him on the floor. And anyway, we never forgot that, that break us apart. And now 20 years later, you find out, hey, listen, he's a relative, one of your best friends. But we at Rollins beat NYU.
Wow.
And my best game, and I'm saying this, and I played college ball and I played ball in recreation, was I scored 28 points against Florida State. And to me, that was it was quite an achievement, because Florida State was supposed to be one of the best schools in our conference. And we were a team. We play together, you're successful. But it was a great life experience.
So I'm glad about that. Sounded fun.
Oh, yeah.
And you get to do what you love.
Oh, absolutely.
And now we have Long Beach Recreation, and that's the Lions Club. That's the football, right?
Yeah, it's a mixture of football.
And St. Mary's, the CYO.
Yeah. or the young. These, these are all our kids. I can go through them all, but let people look at the pictures, they'll all know who they are. And the Lions Club, that's another story. The Parker, they used to run the Granada drugstore on Long Beach on Park Avenue. And I went out and I ordered football uniforms. I didn't have any money, but I told them I went to Wolf's and I ordered uniforms. So instead of me getting into trouble and ending up in jail, I had to raise some money. So the Lions Club sponsored our football team. And we had great life experience and great time playing midget football. And as you can see, CYO, I had CYO basketball and CYO baseball back from St. Mary's. But again, that's Long Beach, and the kids, these are lifelong friends. It's part of life. But look at what we had. When I think about people who didn't have what we have, and how without the friendship and the teams and the coaches and the direction of values and what was important. I mean, we grew up in a great environment where people loved and cared about each other.
Yes.
And now I feel sorry for what has taken place so recently. I mean, how people are going to be damaged from not having that socialization that is so important, and the friendship.
Well, your coaching was good for the kids. So stepping up is a whole part of it.
Yeah, they're part of our life.
Yes.
Speaking about part of my life.
Of course. It's a good part of your life.
Absolutely.
And you know what? It builds character. I've put this collage together because, as we know, you met Ellen. And of course, your families are blended. You have two beautiful boys, your children, sons. And then Ellen has two girls. So this is a great, great photograph. Early 60s.
Yes.
And it's like amazing how you can get through so much hard times. And what becomes of it is the blessing. The blessing is family. So not only the blessings of your family when you were little, but now giving it as a parent, because now you changed roles. Now you're the mom and dad. You know, you're the dad and mom. And I see Ellen with her mom and the two girls,
yes,
right?
And Vicky and Julie.
And we have Ricky and your sons. This is like, it tells a big story about family and being together.
I think it's an important story because you see, Ricky, God put Ricky in my life because Ellen had this special child. And of course, she had Vicky and Julie, but Ricky especially could never speak or cry. And being a nurse, the thing that attracted me most about Ellen was not only her beauty, but her intelligence. She took Latin in school. She was an excellent. She was academically so bright, so talented, so gifted. Loved to cook, loved to sew. She was domesticated, I should say, in a home. But the love that she gave this special child was so attracting to me because, I mean, it was like having a puppy. You can love it, but this is her child. And not everybody in our societies today are thrilled when they see somebody with that have disabilities in some way. They turn away because it's painful sometimes to them and they just are not accepting. But I could just see the love and the happiness that this child gave Ellen. And I said, what's a better opportunity for me? Not only because of Ellen's beauty and how wonderful a person she is, but that she'd be a great mother. I mean, what's better than having a nurse who has children the same age? So it was like having two sets of twins because they were very close in age.
Yes.
But you can see the love that they had for each other. And I actually adopted Ricky later in life, a little bit later, and he's my son. And I can say this, and we wrote a book, as you will see in a few minutes, that I wrote a book about the unconditional love you get from a special child. It's like no love experience you can imagine. I mean, it's just amazing. And it's so amazing that when he was a little bit older at AHRC's Camp Royal Town, they would have special children at this huge camp. And they had people from all over different countries came to volunteer to work with these children with disabilities. And one person, his name was Chris. And I remember a few years ago, he worked with Ricky. So Ellen and I, he was there on Saturday. Ellen and Harvey were there on Sunday. Who's going to be with Ricky, take care of him? You know, can't cry, can't speak. And we meet Chris, a young man. And he was from England. And he took care of Ricky. And 6 years later, I get a letter. We get a letter sent to us from Chris, how Ricky changed his life.
I'm sure.
I mean, it's amazing.
Sure
And
is.
he is now working with special children.
That's beautiful.
And people who took care of Ricky. You know, it's total care that you're giving a child. How 20 years later and even 30 years later, people still call and they ask about Ricky. So I have a child who never did anything wrong. I mean, he never was angry. I mean, he never was aggressive. He's just a gift from God.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate and love him. And like I say, the love you get from that child. And it's interesting, and I'm sharing this personally. You know, I used to take Aaron and we'd have happy days with Ricky. We took him to concerts, we took him to music on the boardwalk in Long Beach. And then we would take him out to malls and everybody would see Aaron taking care of him and people would come over and say, God bless you. God bless you. You're wonderful, you're this. But people could appreciate the time, the patience, and the care that Ellen gave our children. I think there was a little resentment because it was Ellen, Harvey, and Ricky. And I think the other kids were sort of not angry, but aware.
Of course.
And I sort of resented, but until they would get to know Ricky, they wouldn't understand the pleasure that he gave.
Yes.
But now, to this day, and I'm sharing again very personally, I used to take Ellen there, and when we left, she would give Ricky a kiss and leave the group homes. There's a story that we didn't get to yet. But group homes, tough situation because nobody wants to give a child up. And let's talk about Willowbrook and Wassaic. There were state facilities in New York. There were horrible, horrible mental hospitals. And the doctor finally said to Ellen, you know, he's 5 and he's not going to get better. And you're not going to be able to handle what he needs. So you have to look at these facilities. She went to Willowbrook. It was a horrible place. And then there was a place called Wassaic. And they said, leave Ricky here. He was 5 years old. He weighed 52 pounds. And come back in a few weeks. He has to adjust to the new environment. So we came back in 2 weeks. He lost half his body weight. He was almost starved to death. He had 4 diapers on. And we took him to our pediatrician. Pediatrician saw him. His tongue was black. He was bent over. He almost died. He was almost starved to death. And the pediatrician cried. And these are the kind of facilities that existed at that time. And they were finally investigated and closed down. But no, Ricky's going to be 63.
Wow. It's amazing.
And
time goes, really.
Yes, and is blind too, by the way.
But he knows you.
Oh, absolutely.
He knows when you're there.
Oh, I tell you, give him a happy day. And I tell you, like I was going to say before, I used to give him a kiss and leave when we left, and she would cry. Now I give him a kiss and I hug him and thank God. I cry when I leave. So that's how much love a special child. And one of my grandsons, Max, spent a day with Ricky, changed his life. Just changed his life in one day. He said, oh my God, he didn't know. Nobody realizes. But that's what special children are here for. They give love. Just take the time to get to know them and support them.
Yes. So, and speaking of Ellen, she's a beautiful, beautiful young lady. I love this picture. I went through many pictures and most of you guys are on the beach. So I found one with you in a suit and nice attire. Beautiful photographs of Ellen when she was young. It's amazing because you guys spend so much time on the beach. Most of your pictures are on the beach.
Ellen was a great swimmer.
Yes.
People used to say, how'd you meet? I said, Ellen saved me in the ocean.
You met at the beach club, right?
Yeah.
Were you lifeguarding then?
I was in charge of lifeguarding at the Coral Reef.
Where was the Coral Reef Beach Club?
In Lido.
Lido.
It's now Camp Anchor.
Oh, wow.
But
So she was a beautiful woman. And as you said, very sensitive and caring and a registered nurse.
yes.
So
And when she passed, I mean, she left notes to her beloved sons. Thank God.
yeah.
You know, like I say,
You were great friends.
oh, yes.
Yeah. You could see
Yeah.
that. You're always together. I mean, I was at Edie's function and I took a picture of you guys and it was just like, it's just so beautiful. We are now looking at photographs of your children and your grandchildren. And of course, we're centered at the beach and you were just talking about your little baby.
Well, you know, I look at these babies and they're all grown up now. That's Max and Brock in the upper left. I'm saving the next picture for a few minutes. Oh, and Jackie's the only girl, and Danny. On the bottom, you have Greg and Brock, myself and Max, Michael and Danny.
And you have Jackie too, right?
And Jackie is our only daughter.
Yeah.
And now my son Greg and Sajana. Sajana is very interesting. She was a Russian gymnast, and she was on the beach with her family, and she met Greg. Now, Greg didn't understand Russian, and Sajid had a limited amount of English, and they became friends, and they ended up getting married. And what a blessed person Sajia and her family are with Russian culture. Amazing family close together, always there to do things and help. And Sajiana is a coach. She's a very good, reliable person and has a different job working with people and ended up working in politics and government. And is still presently working for a state senator. Todd Kaminsky, as a matter of fact, from Long Beach.
And your little girl is your newest granddaughter, Kendall, right?
Kendall.
She's a beautiful dog.
This is her story. She's in the picture. That's the second picture on the top. Then she's in my arms. Kendall. She's a year now, but she was in the playpen. And Sajiana would say to her in Russian, get the elephant in the playpen. And she would crawl over, get the elephant. And then she would say, get the rabbit in English. And she would go over and get the rabbit. And I'm sitting there in total amazement saying, this child can't talk. But she understands Russian and English.
Right.
9 months old. See how God works, how gifted. I mean, oh my God, you can't believe it. But let me tell you, I mean, let's say you athletically inclined. Greg was an All-American football player. Russell played professional basketball and college basketball, and Greg also. The kids, All-American lacrosse players, Brock and Max, brothers, on upper left. How close are they?
Very close.
Very close. And
It's
they
a
were
beautiful,
blessings.
beautiful picture. I mean,
Yes.
you're all matching.
Well, but again, every summer I worked at beach clubs, and I was an examiner for lifeguard programs for the at that time for the health department. Had been doing that for over 50 years, testing lifeguards. But my kids, Russell was third in the nation as a swimmer. Greg was young and competitive, and he was only 7 years old, and he was swimming in the 8 and under. But he can do every stroke. He's a natural athlete. And Russell, like I said, athletes, and they benefited, I hope, because they had a life experience, not only athletically, but socially. Very well liked, very successful in life, all the kids. And Jackie just got engaged.
It's beautiful.
And
Mazel tov.
beautiful. Yes. So we're blessed. We're blessed. Unfortunately, we lost Brock at age 31. All-American athlete. Ended up injured, ended up in a situation with pain pills. And unfortunately, they took his life. But all he ever wanted to do was help people. And I'll tell you, family loved him. And it was just one of many who have died from these pain pills that were given out, Oxycontin and stuff for pain to athletes. And I really don't understand our justice system, because I think more people should be in jail. The pharmacists, the doctors, and everybody else made money giving this stuff out and jeopardizing the health and safety of our children. But, he's on the bench right next to, Brock is right next to Ricky's bench on the boardwalk and our bench. But I thank God. I thank God for the short lifetime that we had with him, because anybody who ever knew him loved him.
Yes. Now we're just a little bit older, and we're look at your grandchildren and your children as adults, more adult than in the previous pictures. And I like the theme. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and geographically, they're going in different directions. I mean, everybody's in Long Beach for the summer, basically.
Yes.
But it looks like there's going to be a vast movement to Sarasota, Florida. My in-laws, Ellen's mom and dad, were there many years ago. They were like the first ones there. It's so beautiful in Sarasota. And the climate is good, and the schools were good. So some of our family now, Russell and Greg, have houses down there now. And they'll be leaving, but they'll be back for the summer.
We're going to be snowbirds.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But
Absolutely.
You're staying put. I know that.
Well, let me tell you, I'm here for a reason. I'm here because I have Ellen is in the ocean. I have a memorial garden for her. And everybody, and Ellen, we've done a lot of work, charities that we'll talk about later.
Mm-hmm.
But well, she's Long Beach, and everybody who ever met her, and especially even being a nurse, I had people that she took care of. They thought that they had an angel when they saw her.
Of course.
And she was gentle, kind, taking care of her, sensitive, taking care of people. She's great, great. Everybody knew and loved her.
Now we also have photographs of your family, of course, as much older and always together. It's beautiful. I see your sister and her husband, and I see you and Ellen. I see your
cousin
son.
Carol,
Right.
And my cousin Carol, she was Maxine's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
She's like a sister. I mean, we just totally close our whole life.
Right.
I mean, that we loved each other,
Yes.
and yeah, they're all here,
Yeah. And your daughters. I see your
and my
daughters.
sister Brenda and Howie.
Yes.
Howie, you know, my sister, she was very smart. She married a guy. He lived in Long Beach, and you know who she married? The good human man. She married a good human man. I said, that's smart. You'll always have ice cream. But
That is so funny.
he's such an unusual person. Very kind, very efficient. Never took a day off from work in 60 years. He's respected he was in the industry he worked in, but an unbelievable person. Everybody loves Howie and their family. Our family, our cousins.
It's beautiful.
That's Uncle Hal and Joyce that was up there.
And we were talking earlier about Brenda and being honored as a woman of distinction, and this is her award in 2008. This is beautiful.
Yes.
She worked at the Tides too, right? She was social worker at the Tides?
She was the only one there when the state came in and cleaned out the place for the misdeeds. Brenda was the only one that was still there, taking care. And she would tell staff and those people who didn't do what was right, she would let them know that could be your mother there and that could be your family, you know. And she was respected all over the state. People knew about Brenda.
Well, she stood up.
And yes, and she volunteered. She volunteered as much time as she did working, or more time. Went to school for testicular cancer, breast cancer. I mean, she went and had doctors going into our high schools and talking to our students. And she just put herself out there for people, and she's still there, and she's still a social worker.
That's beautiful.
Do all in my family.
Yes, it runs in the family.
That's it.
And now, Officer Weisenberg, Long Beach Police Department. Tell us a little bit about when you worked in the North Park area.
You know, once a cop, always a cop. That's the old police headquarters.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the story. I was a police officer, and I was a PBA president. That's another story. In 1960, there was a PBA president, Jimmy Rosengrave. I mean, the cops love each other. We did great things. We had the police officers in Long Beach were residents of Long Beach. Many of them went to school here. I remember them as a kid when they were athletes, and what they participated in our community activities. So there were people you always admired. I remember one old-time police officer from way back when I saw my father, and this police officer whacked me. And my father whacked me. I said, I just told you that this guy, well, he whacked you, you deserved it. That was a different generation in those days.
Yes.
But the police officers, I mean, they participated in our recreation programs, our lifeguarding. They were here, and it was always an expression. It's good to have a gun on the block, and God forbid you have any kind of an emergency, and they're there. And I can talk and I can say this, and I'm saying this because of what is happening in our society today in some places. Some of the things I did as a police officer, I helped deliver a child at 710 Riverside, person of color. We saved people in a building on Park Place. It was mixed use. There were stores and people were residing, and there was a fire, and we saved people from that. We have people, Jack Daniels or McDaniels, a little guy, a black guy, and he was a talented tailor and terrific man. And he would come over in the wintertime and say, okay, put me in jail. He wanted to go to jail. So in the winter, he would go to Nassau County, and then he would fix all the uniforms. And then I found out that he was one of the most decorated heroes in World War II. So, you don't judge anything by who you see or what you see. But when the black church burned, everybody in Long Beach got together, and Jerry Fleisch was involved. I remember leading that that we rebuilt the Black church. When the Catholic church was built, the Jewish people were there. The Jewish people were there. Everybody is always there for each other in our city. And then we had a city, and we have a city that I believe, like I said, capable, most accessible for people with challenges or disabilities. It's a great place for fundraising. Every not-for-profit agency uses our resources here, our beaches, and our concerts, and our boardwalk to raise funding. So that's what Long Beach is all about. It was a small city.
So being down and you were in the West End too, you had station in the West End?
Oh, yeah, like post 9, but post 8, I do, when on Park Place.
Mhm.
We had a black bar, Bob Schuler.
I remember Bob Schuler's bar.
And next door was Mickey Lanzetta's bar,
Yes,
Brown Derby.
Mickey's, yeah, Brown Derby. I remember.
And I said, a lot of activities, but we never really had serious problems here. But the police department and the cop, once a cop, always a cop. And I remember we used to turn out with 3 men on the late tour to cover the city. And that we didn't have that many police officers, but Dane Hermanson, Ray Panzer, Bill Miller, the people that worked here, I could go through all of them, and they were part of my life. And because of that, I set up a police memorial. And I just to pay tribute. Oh, well, that's another story. It's an Albany story we can go to in a few minutes. But I should, to this day, I'm still involved in supporting our law enforcement. As I said, once a cop, always a cop.
Of course.
But I have to just tell you a story. I think that's of interest. Mike Rosengrave was the son of Jim Rosengrave. I won the PBA election by 1 vote. Only 1 officer voted for me, a fellow by the name of Joe Hoff. But I won the presidency. Mike Rosengrave was Jimmy's son. And because I beat his father, I had to give him a job. When I got elected to office, and he worked with Jerry Kramer before me, who was a great assemblyman for 24 years here. And then Mike Rosengrave worked with me, but he was a constituent person who was so good at what he did that legislators from the state, they couldn't get things done. They would call me and Jimmy and Michael Rosengrave. He was the bulldog. And I had to get something done. He did it done. So, we are lucky and blessed.
Yes.
And to this day, we have lunch every day together.
That's beautiful.
Okay.
Long Beach Recreation. I see Mo Sedlick.
Yes,
Are you coaching here or are you working at the recreation?
that's me.
Ah,
I was right. And Stephen Cohen. Stephen Cohen and the Cohen family. They were like our family. Wherever they grew up. The family here, but these are our kids.
mhm.
I can go through, I mentioned them, but that's a swim team from the Long Beach Recreation Center. We had wonderful talent and wonderful coaches that worked in our recreation program, teaching swimming. We even opened up a 2nd grade program that every 2nd grader was going to learn to swim. Long Beach surrounded by water. Felt that, let's make sure we drown proof our kids and teach them to respect and enjoy and learn how to swim.
Yes.
So we had great swim teams there.
And we're coaching basketball. I think this is when you were teaching.
Yes, East Meadow. I taught there for 20 years. And I was an assistant principal there too. But that's this is our East Meadow varsity. Now I know it's gonna. Hey, what is Russell and Gren doing there?
Ah, I wonder why.
And I think that's probably one of the biggest mistakes I made, coaching your own kids. But, well, like I said, Greg was an outstanding. He was a starting quarterback as a sophomore in football. He was a great basketball player as well. Russell was there. Frank Viola, who ended up being an outstanding baseball player. But we got about, I would say, at least 10 of these kids ended up playing college basketball. And in East Meadow, they were great athletes, but they never played basketball. And when I think about Bobby Ghostin, I had 12 kids come out to a basketball team. Long Beach had 80 kids. And we played Long Beach in the playoffs one year. But I mean, I taught my kids what I learned from Bobby Ghostin, fundamentals.
Right.
And we just taught when we were very successful when we got to the playoffs. And in one of the playoff games, we played Long Beach. And we beat Long Beach down in Long Beach. And my East Meadow kids, they were just good ball players, and they knew the fundamentals. And we were successful in winning that game down here in the playoffs. So
your boys went to school in East Meadow because you were teaching
just
down
for
there.
a couple of years.
Yeah.
Well, I won, and I did the right. I don't know if I did the right thing. I picked out the hardest teachers. But Russell graduated from there, and after he did, then Greg came back to Long Beach and was a star athlete here.
He's on the Wall of Fame too.
Yeah.
In Long Beach High School.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was All-American.
Now we're at East Meadow with your special kids.
Some of my special.
Your special kids.
Yeah.
We were out in the garden digging, right?
I was sort of shocked the principal. We planted flowers. I took my special ed kids. You know, I did things that were a little different. I took my kids out to measure. They were measuring math, and I would tell them to throw a ball. How far did that go? And they'd have to measure it. I had them run for time, and they would learn so much. And then what we did, we planted gardens in front of the school. My special ed kids, because they were special ed, and they didn't have the stature or whatever that other kids had because they were special ed. But these kids were terrific. I mean, they were different. They had different faults, but they were all kids.
Mm-hmm.
And
we all have our place.
yes, well, you know, in one of the schools, they had a play every Friday, class plays. And my kids said, "What are we going to do?" I said, "What are you going to do in special ed?" I said, "Well, we put on a program. It's called Welcome Back Weeze, from Welcome Back Carter." And I had one kid who wouldn't speak. Another one had grand mal seizures, and they had a little script in front of him. And so I said to the principal, "I does not like to put on a play." He said, "Oh, no way." I said, "Yes. I mean, we have to go to the place." And sometimes they would separate special ed. But I said, "Hey, we want to do a play." So it was like a classroom, and I was on the stage with them, and they each had a script.
Right.
But how they stuck together, and I taught one kid, and he didn't know how to read. He was 12 years old. He didn't know how to read. I said, "If you don't know how to read, you can't eat." "What do you mean?" "Well, here's a menu for lunch. You got to know how to read." So he learned how to read. Another one wouldn't speak, and we had him, and we were on the stage, and he had a part to say something, and the other kids said, "Come on, you can do it. You can do it." And he ended up coming out and speaking. And I said, it's an amazing thing how they would fight with each other and do whatever they had to do. Their behavior was at that time, they were called emotionally disturbed. But these kids were just kids with problems. But they learned to, as you can see, care about each other. And they had friendships that they never had because they were different.
Right.
But they gained respect. And it was so successful that the principal said, "You can do it again." And then we put it on one night for the parents.
Beautiful.
So that was success.
Yes. And now we're up to the times of you being in the city council, of course. You were president of the city council at this point. And this is just one thing that you worked on, which was very successful. Of course, there was probably many, many challenges in the city, as
yes.
there are always, if you've lived here forever, just like everybody else who's from Long Beach. So we all know that the North Park area being reconditioned and to welcome a new project was to help, rebuild the part of Long Beach that needed help. And this was the project you worked on.
The MLK Center.
Yeah, the MLK Center, and then the new housing, I guess the projects, giving housing to people with low income, and of course, probably the wall bounce, the shopping center.
Oh, that was, the wall bounce was a different story, but the MLK Center, at that time, I got the funding. We were involved and we got the funding. I think it was Ray McGrath, who was a congressman, or Weidler, either one, but they were both pro Long Beach. And we got the funding for the MLK Center because we had an East End recreation, we had a West End recreation program, and we had one in the center of town recreation. So North Park area wanted their opportunity to have a recreation center. So we got the people, Bruce Bergman and Roy Tepper, myself, and Hannah Kamenoff. That family they were different people here that really supported everything. The Kamenoff family was one of them especially. And I remember Ellen Schlissel used to work with her as the secretary, and how they really stood up and fought for anything our city needed, hospital, education, they were all involved. Mm-hmm. The Calicos, another family. But it was great opening the MLK Center. And it's successful, and it was a great resource for education and many other things that we can talk about later. Mm-hmm. But this is opening just groundbreaking.
And then, of course, we have then the Park Avenue, which is the grand opening of our new wall bounce, which is now a Stop and Shop. But this was the whole taking down of that whole block on Park Avenue.
Yes.
And behind.
Yes, but there's a story. There's a story. It's an amazing story. When I was in East Meadow, I used to run every morning because I was a runner and a teacher. And there was a young man who was a good student in East Meadow. He used to run with me. Anyway, he graduated, and the president was coming to Hofstra, and one of the Secret Service men was this young man who used to run with me. And he said, "Would you like to talk to the president?" And I was president of the council. I said, "Oh, absolutely." So we went into the auditorium. There were 3,000 people there. And they said, "Who would like to talk to the president?" And everybody put their hands up, and she pointed to me. And I sat down and talked to the president, what I'm going to say. So I had the opportunity. I think there were 3 people that spoke, and I had saying that our central business district, we're a small city, and we appreciate that his interests were in the cities, especially on beach cities, that we would have an opportunity. The central business district needed a facility, and I got the funding for that. But I mean, it's just funny. Somebody from high school was instrumental in helping me get a big shopping center. And that's Aaron Molinsky. He married somebody, and he was one of my lifeguards, but he married somebody in the Harveys family there. That's Eddie Eaton, Pro Wild, Bruce Bergman, and Kevin Bradish.
Right. And I think Roy Tepp was in here too. So yes, it was a good day. It was a good day.
Well, yes. But, it was interesting because we had mixed housing at the time. And while it was important, it also, in some way, we found out that we were actually displacing other people of color on the next block of the block behind them. But that's why we developed the North Park area and other housing. But there was resentment. But then it was the fact that we had a Bohax and we had shopping centers, and it was certainly beneficial for jobs in our community.
Yes. And this is an award that only you have received.
Yes. It's the Senator, people didn't know who Senator Reynolds was. He founded Long Beach, basically. Senator Reynolds, Long Beach Water, and that's St. James Church. But we did public service, and we did things to help our community, and they acknowledged my good deeds, I guess. But again, that's one of those situations with every aspect of religion where everybody always worked together to do things for each other. And that's what gave Long Beach, the diversity gave Long Beach the strength that we have in maintaining a peaceful, cooperative environment for all people.
A beautiful award too.
Yes.
Mr. Lifeguard, Harvey Weisenberg. 1957. Wow, you're young.
And that beautiful lady is my mother.
Yes, she is. And we're Long Beach and Lido Beach. This is your Lido Beach stint, right?
That was the Lido Hotel.
And you're still a certified lifeguard. Are you the eldest in the state of New York?
I'm the oldest working lifeguard in the New York Times, or something about that last year. But and I've been an examiner, and it's very interesting. The person from Nassau County who used to be in charge of the lifeguard certification program came over to me and he said to me, "Harvey, you certified me 50 years ago."
That's pretty funny.
But you know,
time flies.
But you know, let me tell you, Stevie Cohen was a lifeguard. He was a chief lifeguard. All our chief lifeguards are outstanding. All our lifeguards are outstanding.
Yeah, I think the next picture has a lot of that.
Okay, it's a more recent picture, but these are, and that's Stevie in the front.
Yeah.
And I go through everybody, but these are Long Beach people.
Right.
And we have about over 100 lifeguards on the beach. And then
the rescue, rescue boards.
Oh, yes. Oh, well, that's another thing when we go about surfing. We'll get to that in a few minutes. But these are just some of the old timers that got together last year, I believe. And they acknowledged me. By the way, I got a citation from Paul Gillespie, the chief, for my 60 years of service on the beach.
I remember Mr. Gillespie.
Great coach.
Yes,
wrestling coach.
Yeah.
Great person.
There's an older picture.
Yeah.
That's a great show.
Yeah, and I got Franny Purcell and Eddie Buscemi.
For a while. Joel Crystal and Steve Kohut.
Yeah.
And there you are in your lifeguard dudes.
Yeah.
Your duds.
Yeah, lifeguards for life.
Yes, we are. This is also a very distinguished award that you received from Nassau Library System and from the 54 libraries in honor and celebration of the support that you give libraries. It's a great thing because I'm a librarian and you are a library champion because you've always come to the rescue of our libraries and support us, amongst other things, of course, because you have many, many things that you support on a personal level and also as when you are in office. But this is a beautiful thing because yes, you really challenged and you worked for the advocacy for libraries.
Well, as a matter of fact, we even set up, this is unusual that I had to set two libraries, if I recall, that areas that didn't have libraries. And we got them an ability to have their own libraries. I think one was in East Rockaway and another one close by. But I mean, a library, people didn't understand that it's an educational resource. It's a socialization opportunity. It's for knowledge is utilized, I mean, for people almost in every aspect of life. And any age group can be here. From the youngest child to the oldest person has access here to socialization, information, and all the knowledge that can be gained from the resources that are here in the programs. We have great programs here in our library. I mean, it really is a center part of every community.
Yes.
And we have to make people aware how important it is. And that's one reason why when you go to vote in schools, you vote for libraries as well to get the resources necessary to maintain and stay up to date. And unfortunately, there just isn't enough money that is out there to do the things that have to be done. But it's not a secondary, it's a primary.
Yes.
Library is a primary to people in that community they're in. Yes, my pleasure.
And of course, your reading. It's beautiful. Now we're at the Long Beach Police Memorial that you set up many years ago. This is
Yeah.
1994.
Right.
And it's in remembrance of the police officers.
Dedicated
Yeah, dedicated.
dedicated to those who have served to continue to serve as police officers in the city of Long Beach, because these people were all part of my life. And it was very important, and it's beautiful. It cost me $25,000. We put it up here in front of the railroad station, but after a few years, many years, the clock didn't work. And I went to City Hall and I said, the clock, everybody knows I put the clock there. It's a police memorial. Can you fix the clock? And the city said they didn't have any money. So I said, okay. I gave them $10,000 to the city manager, fix the clock. This is a police memorial. These are people that are part of my life. And he called me back a couple of weeks and said, come get your check. Nobody cares. Took my breath away. I was like, are you kidding me? I did the police memorial in the state of New York. Dale Volker and myself, that same year, set up a wall up in Albany that any police officer that dies in the line of duty is going to have their name on the wall. And I said, it was only the one that Albany, the one is set up, and the only other one that I knew existed was in Long Beach. And we had every police agency involved came down and we cut the ribbon. And it's so meaningful. And then what happened? They didn't have any money, and they said they're not going to fix it, and they couldn't fix it. So I bought another clock and this is dedicated to all police officers of the city of Long Beach who served and continue to serve with this thing, with dignity and respect for all people. I mean, with all this stuff that's going on throughout this nation about law enforcement, I mean, I know the cops down here because I know, as I said before, what our police did and what we did, and, this is an interesting story, again, being a police officer. Ellen and I, a couple of years ago, we were in a shopping center in East Rockaway, and a lady came over and said, Mr. Weisenberg, you don't remember me, but I'll never forget you. I said, excuse me. She said, I was 2 years old and I stopped breathing and you saved my life. And I still choke up. Now I choked up because Hank Pledgement and I, he was a police officer together. We went in the canals, we had a baby that wasn't breathing. And we took care of her. Can you imagine what that's like? 50 years later, getting a thank you for saving somebody. And I think that's what law enforcement is. People talk to me about police officers and the violence. Well, you got 35,000 police officers. And if you don't maintain your standards, you get what you get. And the answer really is that these few people that have done misdeeds, and that's why we have judgment, that's why we have law enforcement. And this isn't a racist thing, but it appears that way. And then unfortunately, I say, as I said in Long Beach, and I can speak about Long Beach and Nassau County, with respect and dignity for all people. That's where the cops in Nassau County and Long Beach are. I can tell you that because I know many of them and we know who they are and what they do. And we're so lucky to have people doing the hardest job in a society that's falling apart today. because without justice and law enforcement, you can see what's happening in some of these states. And it's just a pleasure. And I thank the city manager and our police officers for their help and support.
Now we're up to the fire department.
Yeah, that's when I opened up the West End Firehouse, and Danny Carney.
Yeah, Ray Carr.
Yeah, well, yeah, firefighters, but just because our firemen, well, we're the only paid department on Long Island. We have paid and volunteers, but we're lucky, just lucky for the wonderful people that serve, dedicate their time and energy to save our people. How lucky we are for our volunteers.
Yes.
And our paid department. But that's another, you see, the police department memorial was in May. We set it up for May. In October, they set up, and it was, there were only 3 legislators there when we set this up in October, many years ago, for the fallen firefighters, the wall up there. And I tell you, I'm an honorary chief in the 2nd Battalion. That's 6 departments plus 5 towns plus Malvern. I mean, it was nice, and the pipes and drums. But look at this; they're the best people in the world.
Yes, and your memorial's here too.
Yes.
That's our Long Beach group.
Yeah, they're up in Albany. They came up with the fire services.
And there's your memorial.
Yes. But I'll tell you, the tears, the tears when you see the programs that they had, and the music, and the families coming up. I mean, we have some of the firefighters who died in the line of duty on that wall. But it touches your heart. Yeah. Every governor, I was with 5 governors, and 4 of them were there all the time. 1 governor has yet to go there. Guess which one? Yeah. But it's sort of upsetting because where everybody runs away from something, they were running towards it. They go towards it. They're saving lives and jeopardizing our own. And I'll tell you, Denise Ford, God bless her, is a woman, a Long Beach lady who lost her husband, a fireman. And I know what Greg was coaching her son in the midget football leagues, right? But what a great lady. And listen, we're grateful. We're grateful to our fire services. Now
we're up to something fun.
Yes.
The skateboard park that the kids have been craving. And I say craving, the skateboarders wanted a skateboard park, and somebody made it happen.
Absolutely, $90,000. But I mean, what you're seeing here was given to me by the parents or kids and families for our skateboard park, and they enhanced and even made it better. But we always try to stay ahead in recreation. Like I say, Long Beach is recreation. We know where our kids are.
And it's more safe for them to be there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I was watching the other day, I went up there to take some pictures, and the young people that were up there, it's scary what they can do on these boards. These young people are just flipping on these things. And I was like, wow.
It is. It's amazing.
It is amazing. And they come from all sizes, from little tiny guys to very big ones.
Absolutely.
It was nice to watch, though. It was fun. Now we're into a very, very special portion of your presentation. It's because now we're dealing with special needs. And this is a beautiful award, and the gratitude that was given to you for those children with special needs and the advocacy from Hadassah.
That's one agency, but we dedicated our efforts, especially having a special child, and meeting the direct care service professionals, but they're known as direct caregivers, that nobody knows who they are or what they do. And they're doing the hardest job in the world. There's no job harder than taking care of another person, total care. And with the disabilities are varied. And these are special people. And they, unfortunately, in our society, they're underpaid, overworked. And what's going on now, presently, in 2013, the governor of the state of New York, Andrew Cuomo, took $90 million out of the budget.
We're going to see that in a second.
Yeah, well,
I'll show you. But we're going to just
Okay.
run through our
Yes.
children,
yes,
because I said, you know what, let's say our blessings for those children because they are so important to us. And of course, right at the center is Ricky.
Yeah.
And your love child over here. I gotta just move this so I can show you. Who is that young lady in your arms?
look at that baby.
Isn't she beautiful? She's probably much bigger now. She's probably all grown.
She passed away at age 16,
Oh, she passed at
just a couple
16?
of years ago.
Aw,
But-
I'm so sorry.
Uh,
She'd love to be in your arms.
Always jumped into my arms.
Aw.
And this is Lindell School, outside Lindell School. That's another bill that I passed. A flag in every classroom. Ellen was having surgery in New York City at 7:00 in the morning. And I walked into a school saying, I'm a former teacher and a assemblyman. I'd like to speak to your kids in a school in there, it was near the hospital. And they let me in it. And I said, you salute the flag? And they said, yes. And it was a sticker on the window. So I went back to Albany, met a friend that I know. And I said, I wrote to every superintendent in the state of New York for classroom flags. And we got 8,000, I'm trying to think, $8,000 or $10,000 worth of flags. And we sent them to every school, Democrats and Republicans. I gave them the flags for their school districts. And that was so very unusual in Norway when Democrats and Republicans did things together. But I didn't. I got the money and I gave it to everybody. That sort of opened some doors to make it not so political for my needs, because they knew my agenda was different than many others of mine. It's not political, but it was good for people. And
another aspect of giving to the children.
Serve for all. That's the students. I taught their mother and father of Cliff. Taught them how to swim. They were in swim programs in Long Beach at the pool. And well, this was interesting. We said a Surf for All program. And Jim and Barbara Mulroney were involved also because they have a special child. But what I did was, with the students, we set up a program for people with disabilities. And we opened it up. It was in Atlantic Beach, and they had to pay rent down there. And we needed a lifeguard, so I was the lifeguard. And I gave them a 4-week program, 4 days a week, 4 hours a day. And I gave them $1,000 a week to run this program. And it was amazing. And the volunteers who helped the students with their staff had as much enjoyment and pleasure as the people that were participating in. And it became so successful. And this started 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago, the program, because this was something that we have. God gave us a beautiful beach. We have wonderful people. And now we have a national surfing champion. One of the students is, I think, number 7 in the world in large waves competition.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, they're now world renowned. We have people from California who came out here, and we have people with disabilities, and amputations, and everything else. They are just here, and we do this, give opportunities to agencies. I mean, North Park area, we had children of color that never were on the beach. They didn't know anything about the ocean. They come down here, and we even had James Hodge serving. So we're successful, and the happiness that you get from doing what we do.
And I think the other slide, hold on. And there's his son right here. I think he's
Yeah.
autistic.
Yes.
Yeah, he has autism.
Yeah.
So
already-
his story was, when I was reading his story, I was like in tears because at first he didn't want to go into the water. Then he loved the water. And then, of course, he was laid aback for a bit. And then they had to try to entice him again. But then they were successful and he got back on the board. And it was all your fault.
Oh, I got it.
You got him back on the board.
Yeah, well, we had put that I was early, it took them too, I believe up there. But I mean, just the smiles on the faces. And now you see kids 5 years old on surfboards and disciplined. How they wait, they sit on the beach and wait their turn, and then they follow instructions. Nobody's whining, nobody's crying. But the happiness that they have, and the people, like I said, the volunteers out of there, adults and children helping each other. Well, that's what Long Beach is all about. That's who we are and what we do in Long Beach.
And with him, especially, he had a lot of sensory issues. So the water was good for him.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we had one person, I don't know, I mean, with the amputees, matter of fact, CAF, Competition Athletic Foundation from California, they came out here with people that had amputations and things. One beautiful, beautiful lady with one leg, and she was out here. And this organization, I made a donation to them, and they asked me to come to New York where they had a big dinner. And I went there, and I figured how many people would be there. Well, place was full. And they were speaking, and what they do, they will provide anybody who needs anything. If they want to compete in any sport, they'll get them their prosthesis, they'll get them their whatever they need, their equipment, they'll teach them. And then they had a show, and I was standing next to a lady who lost a leg, and she said, yeah, I'm in the program. I said, really, what'd you do? She said, well, I wanted to do a biathlon. That means you had to run and swim. And she said, I had one leg, and I didn't want to go to a pool. I didn't know how to swim and take my leg off because people would stare and it was uncomfortable, but I did it. And then they showed her on the screen, and here she is. She did what she could do, and then she surfed. And you can just, the tears come out of your eyes because you can see people who are challenged, and if they want to do something, they do it. And here's an agency, it's all free.
Right.
So,
and this agency also includes now not just children. This is for adults. Yes, it's inclusive of everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
they have people who were hurt in the war. They're for veterans.
Absolutely.
They have for everybody.
I know. I'm telling you because I made our veterans aware. We have our wounded warriors here.
Yeah.
About this agency, and I send them money every year because I thank them. They're terrific, and that's Long Beach.
Now we can talk about Angela's house.
Angela's house.
This was the start of Angela's house.
Paul Castro. They out in Suffolk. They had a meeting out there about people with disabilities, and I met this family who had a child. I think she was 3 years old. Well, maybe. Anyway, she was sick, and of course there were no facilities in New York State, so they sent this child away. I think it was in Connecticut, and when they got there, the child had passed. He said for months he was trying to get funding to try to get something in New York. Didn't happen. And then I said to him, Bob, we're going to get this done. And went to Shirley Silver, went to the speaker, and I said, listen, it's not political, it's not in my district, it's not in my area, but it's for people. And Shirley Silver, who was the speaker at the time, said, whatever you need. He gave me $500,000, and we ended up. And how we got it done was not because of the service. Angela's house is a house for medically fragile children. That means they need total care. And what we do, we'd send them out of state. And I said, well, wait a minute, after doing a little research, it costs more money to send them out of state than to have them here, where their families could be with them. So we ended up getting Angela's house. Unbelievable. Bob Halicastro and his family did an unbelievable job. We hosted on Niece Marichi's first one. Now we have 3 of them. And they just, I can't tell you the quality of care, the quality of life, families just have their people together, just unbelievable. God bless Bob Halicastro and the family in Angela's house and the people that work there. Terrific. This was a contest that we auctioned off. But this is Long Beach.
It's Long Beach. Hetty Page is, she's still alive, right?
Yes.
She's in her 90s.
Yes, I know. They called me, her son called me and said that her mother, who was in her 90s, got an opportunity to get her vaccination. I said, you want me to drive you? She said, he said, where? I said, where do you have to go? She said, upstate New York. I said, what are you talking about? And I mean, that's the way it was going when you have to sign up and people are making appointments for you. But anyway, she was taken care of. But she's a great artist. But this is Long Beach. It was a purpose to everything I put on here. And it was supposed to be auctioned off. And I bought it.
But I remember Hetty Page. She was beautiful.
Yeah.
She's
Oh,
nice,
she's a
beautiful
great
lady. Haven't seen her in many years, but I'm glad she's still
I just
around.
wanted you to know that wheelchair accessibility.
I see
for
it.
Long Beach.
And the chairs for the beach.
I bought
Wheelchairs
those
for the
surf
beach.
chairs.
Yeah.
8,000 of them. And, it's a very political story. I was going to drop them off at Camp Anchor. That's, in Lido for people with disabilities. And the person who was in charge, they said, I can't take it from you, you're a Democrat. So I called the county executive and I said, you're going to be a front page story in Newsday. He said, don't. So I got a Long Beach truck. We took 8 chairs that I bought. They were $1,000 each. And we just left them down there and they used them.
Beautiful. That should be used.
Yeah.
That's important.
And that's our bay and that's our ocean.
Yes. And the city and our
Yes.
seagull.
Yes.
This is down on Roosevelt. I
Yeah.
pass it every day.
Sue Rosenbaum,
Yes.
special lady. She was president of the breast cancer organization. And I still have the picture of her. Paris had young kids.
Mm.
So we put a memorial garden there and donated it. And then, they had different leadership. And all of a sudden it was changed to something else, different name. But anyway, it's there.
It's still there. I
Yes.
see it. I pass it every
I know,
day.
but the garden isn't what it could be, should have been like when we started.
James Conlon, what a great guy. And he's
Yeah.
passed away now too. But I remembered him when I was young and my mom needed wheelchair help. And he and his wife, they called me and said, we're going to give you a small grant to help you build your ramp. And that got my ramp built in my house. So that was my first speaking with him as a young woman in town before I came to the library. And he was very kind, and he was
Okay.
helping a lot of people to rid of barriers to homes, either by elevator, by ramps.
Absolutely.
And of course, the curbs that are cut on our sidewalks is because of him.
And we modified the beach ramps to the
Yes.
boardwalk.
Yes.
And, and I don't want to say this, but I got the funding for Ocean, the street
The
there.
mast. Yeah.
The closest ocean, in the West End, because Conlon lived on there and the roads were falling apart there. And I got the funding and some people in government wanted it, put it where more people are. Political, it was better. I said, no, it's my money. It's going there. We got about 100,000 or more than $100,000 to get it done. But that was for Jim. And
the other
So the
gentleman, he
Conlon-
used to come into the library, the gentleman in the other chair picture,
Monahan.
Monahan. Yeah, I remember him
very
too.
good guy.
Yeah,
Very
I
good.
remember him as well.
I mean, I'm blocking a picture. That's how many people who are involved in the bicycle. These young kids started this, and they raise money, take a bicycle tour every year.
Yes, the curb
So,
race.
again,
I think I did that once
and they
when I was
take
young.
take them across
Yes.
our city, showing our city. But Jimmy, terrific guy.
Yeah.
And I remember I got him one of our special chairs. And he said to me, that's the first time that he really had an opportunity to go down on the beach and look north, you know,
Mhm.
because we have the special chairs that went on, surf chairs, they were called.
Yeah.
And then I found out he donated it to an agency for special needs. So
Beautiful.
terrific family.
Now, I know you went to Niagara University, but this is a little bit even more closer to home, since yourself and Ellen established a memorial scholarship for students there. So this is the letter from Niagara to
Yeah.
you.
Well, I mean, Niagara University, when I went there, there was a newspaper reporter from the Post that came from Suffolk County who talked to me recently. I mean, this is 20 years ago or whatever, about the team I was on. And as I said, I was the only Jewish guy in the school, and I went there in the middle of the year. And who were the ball players on my team? Larry Costello played for the Philadelphia Warriors and was a coach. Ended up Eddie Fleming played Rochester Royals. Charlie Hoxie played for the Globetrotters. The coach from New York, from the Knicks, was playing from our school. I mean, we had great ball players that were unbelievable, and Frank Layton from Utah Jazz. But I mean, these were such great athletes and ball players. And I came in the middle of the year, but we became very close friends. And I was up there, and it was a life experience, especially during Lent. You never know what I was eating. and I was very close to quite a few of the priests up there. And we became, I mean, it was just a wonderful environment. And I remember somebody from Tuckahoe, he used to bring homemade wine. We used to play pinochle in the hallway. And we drank some of his homemade wine. And then all of a sudden you couldn't get out of your chair.
That's a really fun thing.
But the people, the guys, and there were some veterans up there too.
But the scholarship is for,
Yes,
of course, in your
yes.
wife's memory.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah.
Well, this is dedicated to the ball players,
Mhm.
the coaches and my ball players that I had the life of being with, and it's really it's a great school,
Mhm.
and Vincentian priests, but it's just happy memories. But the experience, and as a matter of fact, you have yearbooks, and they're signed by these guys. These ball players that were really all stars, and how close we were. And I was on the track team, of course, and we had a little 3 championship up there: St. Bonaventure, Canisius, and Niagara. Those are the 3 Catholic colleges, and they competed in a track meet. And of course, because I was a state champion, I broke a lot of records. So it was sort of a headline in the papers. And Frank Layden, he said, I was a one-man track team because I ran 5 events. I ran at that 100 to 220, the quarter mile relay, and I high jumped. So, but what a great life experience.
But you're able to do it. It's like, why not?
Yes.
It's great. I love it.
It was just, like I say, another life experience. We had up there and people who were going to be priests. And it's a life, as I said, a life experience of being with other people and from different backgrounds and different ways of life, and yet how we all end up being together And that's what America is all about, or was about. And that's what our city is all about. And people have to take the time to appreciate what we had. And the only way we can be successful is by being together.
This is a very, very recent article in the Long Beach Herald. It's dated April 29, 2021. And Mr. Weisenberg is always donating his personal funds to help people. And in this occasion, of course, the veterans were having their first time meeting since the COVID started back last year in March. And they weren't able to do any kind of get-togethers. And these servicemen have, taken care and supported and took care of our country, and they fought for us. And John is a very good friend of our family. And of course, Joseph is my brother. And he actually helps the Jewish war veterans. So this is a great article in the Herald of Harvey donating money to the veterans. And you had a good experience with this day, didn't you?
Oh, it's always a pleasure. Now, who's more important in our society than our veterans? What they did, they served, especially those who are still alive, to be able to appreciate, I hope, the love and the thanks that veterans receive and should receive. Unfortunately, I'm involved with veterans agencies and organizations. By the way, this is Long Beach and Oceanside veterans that we got together for lunch. But I also would like to bring to view the fact that up in Albany, we set up a beautiful, and I have pictures that I have given to our local veterans agencies when I went from Albany, of the flags of all the areas that veterans serve. It's beautiful. And if anybody is interested in getting any of this photographs of the veterans display up from Albany, I have them and they're available. Be happy to share them.
Thank you. This is very dear to your heart. And I know you created this memorial garden for your wife, because now she's passed away. How many years is it now?
5 years
Yeah.
in April, just passed.
Yeah. And I took a picture of your bench in her memory, and of course her sign and her garden.
I would like to read.
Yes, of course.
In memory of Ellen Weisenberg, her love and empathy for our community and the people this prince will blossom every spring in this garden.
It's kind of blocked by the flowers.
It is, but
We're living on our hearts.
We'll live on in our hearts. Ellen loved flowers and the garden. It's very interesting because I water the garden, take care of it. And when church is out and a lot of the nuns come by and they say to me, "This garden makes me smile." And another nun said to me, "This garden really makes me happy." And I said, "Well, thank you, but that's Ellen." I mean, her smile, and whoever ever met Ellen appreciated not only her beauty, but her kindness and caring. It's very interesting. Just recently, somebody came over. Ellen died 5 years ago. And an older fellow came over to me just this morning and said to me, "I remember you. I remember your wife. She helped me in war bounds. I couldn't read or see the products that I was looking for, and she took her time to take care of me." And I said, "That's from 5 years ago, but that was Ellen. She will always be remembered for the good person that she was."
Of course. And I know you miss her terribly.
That I do.
And this is Ricky's bench. So I was up on the boardwalk on a nice sunny Saturday, and we went together to look at all the benches, and I shot the bench plaques. And this is dedicated to Ricky.
Dedicated to Ricky, our special child, and all special children for the joy and happiness they bring to our world.
And of course, the photograph on the right is him when he's very young in the pool with Ellen. It's beautiful. And with a special chair that you got for the
Yeah,
disabled.
that was called surf chair.
Yes, surf chairs.
I bought them all for the city of Long Beach and for Camp Anchor. They were $1,000 each, but we used to have to carry people who had difficulty in walking, especially on the sand. And there was a lady in Point Lookout that had 5 children, and she would be stuck at home because she was in a wheelchair. And her father, her husband, would take the kids, and they would be on boogie boards down in the water. So we surprised her. We got a chair, and we had the volunteer fire department put it together, and we brought it down. And then we went down there and saw her in the water. We would go into the water just a little bit, but all the kids are all around her, and it really can make you smile.
It's a special time.
Yes, it is.
Yes. Elimination of the boundaries.
And I just have a picture of my daughter, Vicky. She, out of all of my children, our children, was the one who was most dedicated and loving to Ricky. She has a very big heart, very loving and caring, and is one of those people that only just wants to give. And she said she always wanted to be a Weisenberg. So she loves everybody in our family and is our family, but she is a special person who gets the love from Ricky, and the love that she receives is really appreciated in her life.
Yes. And she's a lovely young lady.
Thank you.
And now we're going to talk about your book, which your book has gone far and wide. It's been all over the country, and people have called you from as far as California.
And out of the country.
And how wonderful that your book is, because it delivers a powerful message.
It's a purpose. The book is all about love. It's not expensive. It's on Amazon, and the money goes to charity. But there are a couple of thousand now. We didn't really sell. Went to schools and some agencies, but my goal was not to try to raise money. Of course, I'd like to be able to just pay for the course of the book, but that isn't the issue. The issue really is to make people aware of the love of a special child and how meaningful it is for you as a person to give it, and to also feel the love that you're getting back and giving a special person a happy day.
And I took your quote that you told me, and I had to put it on this because you always say this. And so I had to write it down. I said, could you please say that again so I could write it down? And I can never read my chicken scratch, but I did write it down, and I put it in quotes because this is your words, that God gave you an angel in Ricky and a saint in Ellen. It's beautiful.
And I always get everybody's attention when I say I have a child that never did anything wrong.
Yeah. Well, why would a child do anything wrong? Especially one so dear.
He never did.
No. And this is the Ricky Award.
Yes.
Tell us about the Ricky Award.
This was specially made. This was made by a person who created this. It's an indication of appreciation for taking care of and giving of yourself to others. And I had it made special. Somebody from Long Island who was in the business showed me this award and its purpose. And I said, this is a Ricky Award. It's really a basic thank you for helping Ricky, or helping people that help people with disabilities who care enough to participate. And there are so many people that we gave this award to, and it's greatly appreciated. It's a thank you. It's an award of thank you.
And I just love these pictures. I see Ellen with her flowers and Ricky, and of course you with Ricky. It says a lot about character, about people's strength, because to be able to take care of a special child who is now an adult of going to be 63 years old, that he is still in your care and it's in loving care, and that how you go see him multiple times a week, that I always say, can you come on Tuesday? You go, no, because I got to go see Ricky today.
Okay, what other day are you free? Well, I have to look at my schedule because you're basically running out to see Ricky almost like every day. That's dedication and a lot of love going for him as well is what he gives to you.
Well, not only to Ricky, but to the other children that are there, because they're so short-staffed. Sometimes I would even go out and help feed others. But, you wonder, God had a purpose. He changed my life. Ricky changed my life. He changed my goal in my life. He changed the lives of other people, and anybody who ever met him or cared for him, they also were touched by Ricky. So that's why I feel he is an angel, because, like I said, he gives love, and that happiness, you feel it in yourself. And that's a great reward.
It is a great reward. And this story, of course, is very, very new. It was a top news story. And this year, this made front page and neck page of Newsday, Sunday, April 5th, about caregivers are leaving the state because the pay is not enough for them to support their families or to even live here. And you're fighting for pay hike for people who are caregivers for the disabled. And you're out of office now for many years, but you're still out in the world trying to do and help people. And this is a very important thing because it just goes to show you, like you told me, and I love your sayings, that it's not about the power. It's not about the political assets. It's about the love and the changes that you can make in the world. And this is important, more important than anything. Status is not important, but this is important, and it's to help people.
I'm going to awaken the public to a hearing that I had in Albany one year in 2013 when the governor took $90 million out of the budget. And it was interesting because not at a press conference, I said something to a person from the press, I'm not going to let this happen. I'm not going to let him get away with this. What happened really was that this person printed what I said. And of course, the governor was very, very angry, called the speaker. The speaker said the governor wanted to see me, and I went to see Andrew Cuomo. And he started yelling, and I was disrespectful. How can I say anything like that? And I said to Andrew, your mother worked in a group home. Your father and I worked for 8 years to help these people. Do you understand the consequences of taking money out of that budget for the people that need it the most? And he said, I'm the governor, I can do what I want. And I said, you're the governor, and I can't tell you the rest of what I said. But on March 28th, 2013, on YouTube, you can see a speech that I made that was restoring the $90 million. Most important, every Democrat and every Republican in the Senate and the Assembly voted for this bill. And we put back the $90 million. And I just wanted people to know, because when I had a hearing that year, and I had the commissioner of mental health come and testify at my hearing, and I said, how many people in our group homes or people with disabilities in the state's care were neglected or abused? And the response was 83,000. 83,000 people were neglected or abused? Yes. How many were investigated? Less than 5%. Well, that created an uproar. We ended up getting OPWDD, Office of People with Developmental Disabilities, made aware. And the governor said, well, we'll have to do something. Yes, we will. Well, as I said, we made them put back the money, but we also created a justice center. And the justice center was set up. And who runs the justice center? The governor. So then we have a justice center. And now I'm asking the question, how come that there are so few complaints being recognized from 83,000 in those years before? Well, It's just that I talked to agencies and finding out if the Justice Center is participating in any investigations, and the answer was very few. And when we had a situation that took place with this virus, when we had many people, older people, they're people with disabilities, aged, getting medical attention in facilities that were taking care of their virus and the disease that they had and the suffering, that they decided to take these people, especially in nursing homes, out of the nursing homes and put them back into the nursing homes. They took them out of the medical facility to put them into the nursing homes. Oh my God, there were more than 10,000 people that died. And the response was, well, it was a mistake. I mean, there were other facilities available, but don't put them back just because they're older in the nursing home. And look what happened. We lost that many people. My next question came up. What's going to happen when we have more than 20% of direct care leaving, and that people now are working 2 shifts, double shifts, and doing the most difficult job, 2 jobs, and can't pay their bills? All we want for them is a living wage. And unfortunately, the budget had to be taken care of. When I was successful, I went all over the state, took videos. I paid $36,000 to make people aware who direct caregivers. I mean, people in Albany were getting paid $9.75. Other people getting 10 something. And it just, they're leaving. They can't afford to pay their bills, so they're leaving. And who's going to come and take care of, who's going to do this job? 80 to 90% of the people taking care of our people with disabilities in group homes are people, women of color. And they're religious, caring, loving people. But they can't stay if they can't pay their bills. And nobody is coming rushing to get a job. These people have job fairs. Nobody's hiring. Nobody's hiring because people can't live on this. People flipping hamburgers make more money than people taking care of our families. And I tell you, I rewarded Plainview Hospital because they take care of our special children. We gave them funding. And I gave a medical facility, Dr. Julie Bates is in charge, and does a wonderful job there. And we've given them thousands of dollars so they can get the financial resources to pay for whatever they need, the gowns, masks, or whatever, to be able to protect the caregivers and the people that work there. But unfortunately, government is not doing the best that they can do to the neediest of our population. So this is a God bless to all those wonderful people who are taking care. And one very quick story. Dolores, a lady in Ricky's house, they call her Mama D because she was like a mama. She loved all her kids, and she said she can't pay bills, she's got to leave. And she was there for at least 15 or 16 years. And I said, Dolores, how can you leave? She said, I can't pay my bills. So I said, what are you doing? She said, I'm trying to find a job in a school. Being an assemblyman and getting school aid, I told her to just mention my name and see if we can help. She went to a school district. They offered her a better job working in a cafeteria, a better job making more money. And I said, Dolores, what are you going to do? And she said, I can't leave. I love these children, and these children love me. And I'm emotional about this. And as a matter of fact, she just recently left because they just can't afford to live. And people are going and getting part-time jobs for $16 an hour. And these people are working, taking care of our loved ones, and they're just not capable of paying their bills. So if you think that the nursing home disaster was bad, wait till you see we have about 120,000 people in group homes in the state of New York. If there's not people there to take care of them, God help us all.
Now we can flip back to Sandy, which was a very devastating time for many people. But in Long Beach, because we're a water community, it devastated us in more than one way. It wasn't about the finance. It was more that it was our home, our life home, because you were here from baby. I was born here. And everything just came down. It's not just the boardwalk. It's your whole life was just ruined. And this complete shots are of destruction. And then of course, the coming back. Everybody says the boardwalk, the boardwalk. Yes, the boardwalk is our center, but our homes and our life and our family is our center. But I like the purpose of the photo in the centers because you're kneeling to say thank you.
Well, we had people coming from all over the country to assist in our small city. And they were amazed of what was taking place in Long Beach. I mean, people from Texas and Arizona. I mean, people volunteered and came up here, firefighters, but they were amazed at our fire departments, our local people here, how so close together we were in supporting every family. We had the military down here, we had water, we had food. As a matter of fact, in the MLK Center, it was one of the buildings, and kids were still going to school after the storm, but there was no electricity, so there was no food available in many homes, especially in the North Park area where the MLK Center is. But we had the fire department fix the roof so the leak wouldn't be there, and they had electricity. And I was there when the person in charge told me that when the school bus would come by, they would let their kids out. And James Hodge, who was leading this project, was there with a bullhorn. All right, come in and get your food. So we had hot food, but they ran out of food. Ellen and I went to the bank and emptied an account. We took $10,000 and gave it to the MLK Center. So our people, with kids coming home from school, because they had no electricity in their houses, no hot food, but they had food at the MLK Center. I mean, these are the things that took place here in Long Beach. Our volunteers, everybody working together, but outsiders couldn't believe our whole recreation center was full of clothing, food, anything and everything that people needed to be able to have some kind of quality of life and health and safety.
Yes.
But that's what Long Beach is about. And that's what this whole country is about. Yes, the churches and anybody and everybody from the community. It was amazing because one house had some electricity, they had generators, and they would feed the block. People had restaurants, whatever food they had, they were giving away. It was just an amazing human story of caring about each other. Again, I focus, this is what Long Beach is, but this is what our country is. But we will learn and stick on working together and just loving each other instead of the anger and the violence that exists today.
Yes, giving thanks. Now we're in Albany, and this is beautiful photos of Ellen and Yura up at the state. And I like the background, so I took the background and I made the background. It's from the front of the inside the building. It's beautiful. I love the structure. They don't make stuff like that anymore.
No.
Workmanship.
$1 million staircase.
It's beautiful. And then we have the next shot. Of course, you were very upset because of the tax hikes in Long Island. And you were like, you said, I had enough. And you were just like throwing it up in there. I think that's great.
I'm known to get into trouble when the speaker would have to say, you're not allowed to do that. But I was doing it anyway. You understand what I feel. But this is outrageous. I mean, Long Island especially, we're overtaxed. It's unbelievable. And 70% of your school taxes are your real estate taxes. So you have to get school aid. It's vitally important to get the funding. And if you don't make people aware that you're not going to tolerate what's going on, you motivate other people who are there who might not be impacted as we are on Long Island. But we got our message across. We did well. Our Long Island delegation. Bob Sweeney from Suffolk County, most outstanding assembly person. And James Medora was a writer from Newsday up in Albany, and being knowledgeable and from Long Island, he was great at what he did in newsday, making people aware and advocating for the things that were important to all the people in the state, but especially Long Island. And Mike Donnelly was also there, who recently was involved in helping us to get funding, more money for people with disabilities. So God bless Newsday, Mike, and our Newsday branch and reporters from Long Island.
And this, of course, resolution was the 75th anniversary of
Yes.
Long Beach,
Yes.
which is very nice because you have it up on the board. And some of those people, of course, are not with us anymore. Very, very lovely people. Pearl Wheel.
Yeah, Pearl, wow.
Yeah.
Eddie Bishop is not here. Tom
Yeah.
Kelly's not here.
Yeah. All these people have been around
And our
for
city
forever.
manager, yes. Well,
They were like all the old time, people that they're gone.
yeah, even my sister, Brenda, and Howie are involved. But, Long Beach people, they're there when you need them, and they're there for each other. And that was Ellen's sister-in-law and Arnold, her husband. And they're both deceased at this time. But Brenda and Howie and Long Beach still, they're doing the best we can with what we have. But our city council was terrific.
Yeah.
We have good government in those days, people who cared.
Mhm. And we were talking a little bit earlier about this, and this is just a display of people coming out to support the Office for People with Disabilities, Developmental Disabilities, and the bill that it was signed back in 2013. I kind of stuck in this 90 million restored in here because it's important for people to know that you had to work very hard for him to put that money back. And these people very much so appreciate it.
Well, it was easy. I mean, it was very hard to get it done, but it wasn't that hard when I brought to view the fact that after I passed this bill and everybody voted for it, and then it was an election year, and I told the Democrats and the Republicans, you're the voice of those who have no voice. Your voice was heard. So you take credit for this bill. I didn't do this bill. You did. We did. The voice of the people were heard. That's anti-politics, if you know what I mean. But you want to know, it was appreciated because everybody did do what they were supposed to do. They didn't vote for political reasons. They voted for the health and safety of people. So all those legislators, they took credit, they deserved it, and it was a pleasure to be part of this group in the State Assembly and the Senate with these fellows.
And then we come to the New York State law that mandates a date of expiration on sunscreen. Now, if you think about it, you have stuff in your medicine cabinet and you don't know when it's still good to. So basically, prevention of skin cancer, and because we live at the beach and everybody's in the sun, I thought that this was very, very important. And this billboard, I actually remember it. I used to go to Rockaway Turnpike and it was very, very big. So this is very amazing. And then, of course, the tan ban is not about the sunscreen, but it's just as important because it's not allowing kids of 16 and under to be able to go to a tanning salon because it's very dangerous for kids.
But this billboard was there for 10 years. Unfortunately, when Shelley Silver's brother died and he lived here, all the legislators from New York came off the plane from the airport and going Rockaway Boulevard, and they saw this billboard, me in a Speedo. They almost ran off the road. I mean, it was like a marking place. People would say, oh, I'm coming home, I got off the plane, I'm by Harvey now. But
it's great.
But let me tell you, I passed this bill for 20 years, unanimously, 150 out of 150 in the Assembly. The Senate didn't do the bill because of a political situation until 2013. And then Senator Scullos, because this bill is not about money, this bill is about cancer and preventing cancer. It wasn't an expiration date, it was to use by date. We changed that as requested. Anyway, it passed the Senate in 2013. Again, that's 20 years. And guess what happened? I passed it in June. After, again, 20 years of success of having this passed in the Assembly, the governor, Andrew Cuomo, vetoed the bill New Year's Eve, the last day of the year. Vetoed the bill. I said, you know, when you talk about people with cancer, and when I talked about skin cancer, many of the members who had family members who died and suffered, and how bad this was. And as a fact, Ellen, my wife, who was a lifeguard, ended up dying from a melanoma from skin cancer. So when this thing was vetoed, I said, how the heck can anybody do something like that? And they hinted, oh, it might be a payback for your $90 million. But I said, well, listen, God will punish him. That's it. But anyway, the word was out. A person dies every hour from melanoma in this country. Just be aware. And it's, you know, a seasonal product. It costs a lot of money. And if it's not stored properly, I had pharmacists up there talking about how important this bill was, except it just wasn't important enough for the governor to sign.
Now, this is a very interesting, because we're talking about the governor, who's at this point is Mario Cuomo, so we're going back in time. But I like it because the sign is a powerful message, because as you know, New York and many other places have issues with drugs and to be drug-free. They're teaching it in schools. My son has it in health. This is a big topic. It's still a big topic. And of course, things are changing drastically with certain drugs becoming legal. So I still believe what this says, and it says drugs are garbage, and they definitely are.
Let me tell you, the picture, that's Mario Cuomo in Long Beach. That's my niece, Hillary, and my mother with me on the beach in Long Beach. Drugs are garbage. That was one of the first signs that went up in Albany, and the governor had it in his office. We had it up there. And the answer really is, when you think about how many, especially in Long Beach, that we can talk about how many young people have lost their lives because of the addiction that took place with these drugs. And athletes in the pharmaceutical industry and doctors who sold them, as I said previously. I mean, there should have been more enforcement to be able to punish these people who took advantage and made so much money at the expense of taking so many lives.
This is always in the news. This is a hot topic from day one till now, gun violence. Is anything changed?
Well, I can share another life experience. If you go to Albany, there's a major hall in the assembly that is huge. And I came there one day and there were maybe 1,000 pair of sneakers. What is this? These are sneakers from people who lost their lives because of guns, they were shot or killed. And then New York is against gun violence, were for gun violence, an agency that were there, and they had a press conference there. And I even heard a story about a police officer and his wife. They were in an apartment house, and they were police officers, and they put their guns away. And I passed legislation, safe storage of a firearm, that I passed a law saying that if anybody gets shot, if a child or somebody gets killed or shot by having access to a gun, the owner of that gun has the responsibility. So a lot of people said, oh, you can't do that. I mean, I have to protect myself and I can do this. I said, this is a law only if a child or somebody young of age gets access to that weapon. So we ended up getting gun locks, but it was many years. We kept saying the same thing, and unfortunately, it's going on today. We have problems, and many of the guns that are used in crimes, They're not from around here. They come in from out of states. So, it's not a question of who's buying it here. They don't have, we need, that's one check I always, always tore up. They're never going to send me money politically. And I'm telling you, we have to do more especially the weapons of mass destruction. They're designed to kill. They're not designed to protect. And everybody should have access because that's the Second Amendment. Yes, but also there's responsibility and especially safe storage of a firearm. So we did the best we could. And unfortunately, we have to keep doing it. It's unbelievable that we have like 1,000 people that are shot in New York City. I said, we're not a third world nation.
No.
Where we got to do the best we can. God bless our cops who jeopardize their lives every day.
Yes, of course. Now, we talked a little bit about some bills that we've discussed in the last few slides, but it's interesting because you have passed about 337. And for me to go through your list, and I mean go through your list over and over again and highlighting and trying to make a decision of what's so important that I think is so important for everyone to know, because there's so many things that are important. Everything that you passed is important. The Lloyd Aquifer, things about the water, the dredging of Jones Beach. I could just go on and on. There's a lot of them. But I had to start off with this because this is very dear to me. I have a special child too, not like Ricky, but we all have special children in some way. And when you have any kind of abuse in any place, how do you defend people when they can't defend themselves? And so things like Jonathan's Law was created because of somebody being hurt and killed, and a young person at that.
Jonathan's father, Michael Carey, came to me and was telling me a story about behavior management of his special child, where they took away his food, they took away his clothes. And I'm saying, are you kidding? What are these facilities? Where is this? Well, there was a place, OD Heck up in Albany, a facility. But he told me, and I said, listen, this reminded me of what happened to Ricky. He was almost starved to death. He almost died. He was almost scolded. They scolded him in another facility. He almost died. And I'm saying, we have to do something about this. But when incidents occurred, people said, we're not going to make this public. Of course, they don't want to make it public if it comes out of their facility. But also it was like bad reputation, and people would hesitate to do what has to be done, put their family member in good, healthy environment. But anyway, so they said, confidentiality, we don't have to do that. Well, I passed Jonathan's Law. Any case of neglect or abuse has to be reported and investigated. You have to report it to that family member and investigate it. This changed the whole world and of all of these agencies. And it became a law, like a teacher. If somebody comes into school and has a black eye and it happened at home, it's an obligation of that teacher or a school person to report that. So if a child in any way is neglected or abused, it has to be reported. And this went out, this is the law, to every agency in the state of New York. Now, Jonathan Carey was 12 years old. He was with a one-on-one in a van with another person. That means one caretaker and one resident. And they went out, and being part of the autistic spectrum, Jonathan had to be restrained. Well, he restrained him, and when he restrained him, he killed him. He was 12 years old. What'd they do? Well, they stopped their van. They went someplace to a diner. What were they going to do? And then they finally brought the kid back home to their residence, to their house. And of course, it was reported. One guy ended up in jail. And I think got 10 years. But the reality of this, and the other person was punished as well. But the reality of this is that if these situations are not reported, and it continues to go on. But now that people are obligated that if they witness any kind of an abuse or neglect, that they are obligated legally as well. So we have a better, safer state situation that exists. Very important law. I mean, it was one of the most important laws that we ever passed.
I agree. That's why I put it first. And there are, of course, 3 addendums to that law because now the look back is more than 7 years. So they can check back more time to see more of the abuse and the reports way back, because before you couldn't get any information at all. So those addendums are very important as well. Let's go to the next slide. Then we have Leandra's Law. This is another one that affects not only children, but the adults who are responsible for them. When you take someone's life into your hands, and it may be your own child or somebody else, and you go into a car, you get behind a wheel, you're drunk or taking drugs, and you kill the child in the back seat. What happens? They get off. So this doesn't allow that person to get off. This DUI or DU under the influence of drugs or alcohol is a felony to drive while you're intoxicated or under drugs with a kid in the car. It's illegal. Thank you. Because it's just not good.
There's another story. There's a story to everything. The governor was called and said that he's going to pass a law about people driving with a child in a car who was impaired from alcohol or drugs. And Carl Marcelino, Republican in the Senate, was doing the bill with me in the Assembly. But the governor said, I'm going to pass this, I'm going to do this bill. So he said, would you sponsor it in the Assembly? I said, I'll take care of it. So I killed his bill, and I took Harvey's, the legislators' bill. That's what legislators do. They make the laws. Anyway, we passed this bill. And with the family, I mean, if you really, the emotional conflict, I mean, I have Katie's law, got a Long Beach girl. I mean, kids that were being killed in cars, in accidents. But Leandra's law, because somebody was impaired by drug or alcohol, they belong in jail. And they should never have another opportunity to drive, as far as I'm concerned. But that's up to the lawmakers, or the judges, I should say, for enforcement of the laws. But this also was probably one of the top bills that we had passed up in Albany. And again, we made this bipartisan. This was not a partisan, this isn't politics. This is the lawmakers being heard. So very good bill, very important bill.
Yes. And it's in an 11-year-old young lady's name, Leandra. And I think there was 7 other kids in the car.
Yes.
She's the only one who died.
Western Europe.
That's crazy. I read these things and I can't understand it. But thank God that you are here to do this with other people in the government to watch over our children. And because there are other people on the road, it affects everybody. AEDs. I didn't have enough room on the page to fit all this stuff. So I try to do it as a compilation because this came along a little by little, I'd say, because it started off just in one place, in a public building, in state buildings, and then you added some schools, and then you started to add it to beaches with lifeguards and health clubs. Now it goes to public gatherings. Now they're teaching how to use an AED in health in high school. And you must have a sign at your entrance, like we do at the front of our building. There's an AED sign and a unit at the front door. So these bills, as you can see, are many of them, were all passed at different times, different years, but they all say the same thing: to prevent somebody from dying from a sudden heart failure that could save their life. So these AEDs were very, very important. And thank you.
God bless Lewis. Poor, may he rest in peace. I get a 14-year-old youngster from Northport, high school, mother and father, in the stands watching their son got hit in the chest with a lacrosse ball. Well, went down, CPR, couldn't revive him, and he passed away on that field. Being a coach and an athlete myself, I called the family, Lewis, and the Akampora family. And I said, I'm not going to let this ever happen again. So I started working with the family. We passed the bill, defibrillators in every school in the state of New York. And the debate on the floor was one day when I presented this bill, somebody was debating from upstate New York and said, what do you mean? Why do schools have to pay for this? I mean, they have no taxes. And I pressed the button. Will you yield? That means, will you listen to what I have to say? And he said, yes, I yield. I said, how much is a child's life worth? That was the end of the debate. So we put defibrillators in every school. And it was interesting because in New York City, they had defibrillators, they didn't give them out. And I remember going back, I remember that we lost some kids with special needs, but 5 or 6 other kids in New York City school districts died, and there were no defibrillators. So they finally did what they were supposed to do, and they got them out. But Louis Akampora, the Akampora family, God bless them, they opened up a foundation, and they're doing everything they can to make them available for whoever needs them, any agency and organization, but they're not expensive. When I talk to people in the schools, I said, have a cookie sale, have a cake sale, do something, raise some money. It costs about $2,000. And who's going to train them? Well, you know what? Any volunteer firefighter, every fire service, they'll be trained, and everybody who works in the school. And this was a very interesting time that Ellen and I were invited to Washington. And we were in Washington, and we had a survivors meeting up there. We had families that people were pronounced dead and were alive, grandparents, people, young, old, because they had defibrillators. And it was nice. I told Governor Pataki, I said, I tell you, New York State, you're a hero, Governor, because we got this legislation passed. And then, of course, it's in every resource possible now, and building with 1,000 or more and whatever. But the lives that are saved are not only for young, the old, and everybody else has access. You can't even make a mistake with a defibrillator. It talks to you. So another one of these were some of the most, they were told me by people that live up in Albany, and their life is there, that some of these bills were the most important legislation that ever was passed up there. So we're doing God's work, all legislators that work together.
As I said, I try to pick the most important ones. Again, our special needs children and our adults, because our children grow into adults with special needs, like Ricky. Ricky's going to be 63. And you could see there are multiple bills that I put on here because, again, out of 37 or 337, I'm sorry, this was a good amount dedicated to your special needs children and adults. And I could not fit them all in there, so I just put the bill numbers. And of course, we discussed Jonathan's Law and Leandra's Law as a separate entity. We know about the 90 million restoration. We have an advocacy for developmental disabilities, but it goes a little even further than that. Did anybody understand or know there was a choking law? I have a son who chokes. He has a thing on his IEP in school. He's not allowed to eat food in school. Why is it there? Because he chokes. And I don't want to have a call to my home to say that my son died because he choked on something he was eating he wasn't supposed to. It's on his record. They call me every year to see if it's correct. And I said, yes, it's correct. So these things are so important that JT, it's called JT's law. It's an establish of determination of what food products pose of choking risk, not only in food, but also toys. So we have not only that, we also have a requirement of districts to support services to students with disabilities of all kinds up until the time of their 23rd birthday, that they should get services from their school. Educational materials in all formats should be distributed to children and students with disabilities. Training for school bus attendants for handicapped students, and training for them to, so important, because when you get on a bus, you know how a bus is, even the one that are small. There's children on there with special needs of all levels. They have to be trained. You have to know what's to do if the case of an emergency. Providing an education plan or your IEP to the students' parents, the teachers, and all the people and staff that deal with your child, so they know this child like the back of their hand, because they're directing his life or her life till they leave school and they're no longer in school, and how they're going to become an adult and how they're going to survive with their special needs. So IEP, very important. These are these amendments. They are so important for our children and for our adults too, because it provides services for them as well. To provide surrogacy for decision-making, a guardian for someone with mental retardation. Training for people who teach children with autism, which is a very special need. It even goes as far as Braille, that there should be a Braille literacy for people who cannot read because they're blind. So this is not just special needs for developmental, but for every type of disability. And the list goes on and on and on. How a child could be declassified when they graduate from the CSE. I can't tell you which one is more important because they're all important. So I had to put them on here. Tell me, what do you think? This is like an amazing feat.
Well, you know what? Each one is a life story, dear.
I know.
JT is a youngster from Oceanside, by the way. Adams Law, he was from the 5 towns. They didn't have seatbelts in the car. The school district had them in the car. Transportation, he was killed. I mean, laws are laws, but they have to be enforced. And it's important. And by the way, even law enforcement, if you have a special child, there's some kind of notification to be made that if you have a child with autism and he acts strange or he reaches for your badge, you're not going to shoot him because you're going to be, there's knowledge of stickers on windows, and law enforcement has to be made aware of the condition of people that they're going to encounter if in fact there is any special needs or reason that they're going to act out. I mean, you know, a child with autism, he sees something shiny, he might reach out.
Yes.
That could be an indication to some peace officer who thinks that this guy is trying to hurt him. But education and information is vitally important. So it's something that you got to make aware, the potential dangers, but also the protection of our special people.
Yes. And this goes right along with that, abuse notification. So the notification is the reporting aspect in school, out of school, in centers like where your son was, to be able to have people held accountable of what they did. Because abuse is abuse. I don't care how old you are. They could be abusing seniors. They could be abusing seniors in homes. It could be in your home. People have to do the right thing. They have to say the right thing, and they have to tell. It's important. So this goes along with special ed, but in and itself, it's important because it's not just for children. It's for everyone.
That's correct.
So I picked this out separated from children with special needs and adults, because this could be for a senior who's not disabled in mental capacities, but is being abused. They have to report it. You have to stop it somewhere. And we talked about JT's law, and this is about the choking. It's very sad. It's very sad. Learning the Heimlich maneuver is very important. A big one, especially in Long Beach and New York and in general, I guess maybe every state, because I only live here, so I can't say for other states. But vehicle texting. We're not supposed to text and drive. What do you got to say about that?
This was my bill. This is another one that the Assembly and Senate, this was a priority, of course. I mean, it's crazy, especially when you drive up to Albany every week and you see people in trucks on their phones and driving and operating, and the speed that's up there back and forth on the thruway. But texting is something, I mean, it's just something that is distracting. You're losing contact with the ability to see what's on the road, what's happening, and how many people are going to die or be injured, and how many accidents occur because somebody is not paying attention to what they should be, and that's operating the vehicle. Texting and driving is one of the most important bills. And Shelley Silver, I took this bill, and Shelley came to me personally and said, no, nothing is more important than getting this thing done and enforced. And I said, that's it. We'll do the best we can.
Well, we try. And I told my son, he's not driving yet, but he knows. I keep telling him, no texting. For law enforcement, not in the 80s, you would think that they didn't have automatic weapons and they didn't have body armor to protect them in case they're shot. And this became 1989, 1990. That's not that long ago. This is like incredible. And also the establishment of a memorial fund for scholarships for police officers and firemen both, and for counseling for their families when an officer is killed or a fireman killed on the line of duty. I think that this is very important. We don't realize, I guess because we're not that close to it, you see police, you see firemen, but you don't realize the danger that they do every day. You don't see how much they do every day. It's just not common to us because we're not always around it. We hear the sirens and it's just like a noise in the background. But to be in part of it, it changes your whole view. And you've been a policeman. You're a policeman, as you said, all of your life, and it stays with you.
Well, once a cop, always a cop. There's a funny story. Mel Miller was the speaker in the assembly at this time. And police officers had a revolver of 8 rounds. And they were in situations where people had automatic weapons that would shoot 15 rounds or more. And the answer really was that when I brought this bill up, now this is asking, we have the ability to have money available to buy the soft body armor and the automatic weapons. And there were some people in the York City Police Department that wasn't very happy with this. But I said to I'm remembering his face. I said, if another policeman dies, I'm going to have a press conference. I'm going to blame you because there's a cop that has to reload his pistol when some guy's shooting 15 rounds at him. And he said, wait a minute. And the guy from Newsday was sitting next to me. And he said, well, I'll print that. I said, next day I had the bill. Well, we got the bill passed, but it was important. And Mel was such a good guy because he said, Democrats, we don't do gun bills. A year later, he came back and said to me, that was a good bill. So you would just appreciate if you don't fight for what you think is right, and you just let it go, you're not doing your job. So we do our job and we had success, and God bless our cops for the jobs and what they do. They're being set up today. It was just another story that we could talk about another time.
And since we live by the water, I think this is important. I mean, this qualifies not just for children, but if you're stuck out in the sea, either on a boat or on a jet ski, having a way of sending out a distress signal is important. They weren't required to do that before. How about wearing a life vest when you're out on a boat, if you're under the age of 12 or 12 and under? How many children have fallen into the water and have drowned? And being that you're a lifeguard, this hits home. How many kids and how many people have drowned on our beaches? And that's just going into the water, never mind on a vehicle or on a boat or on a jet ski. This is like so important. Boat safety, water safety, very important.
I hope I'm not wrong, but I recall, this is going to be an unbelievable statement, that any person 10 years of age or older can operate a vessel. I said, you couldn't believe that. 10 years old, they can operate a vessel. And it was very, very important that people, they wanted to, there was a battle about licensing boat operators. No, they didn't want to get it done. They didn't want to do it. But the answer really is they have to be trained. They have to have a certification in operating any vessel in the water.
Yeah.
And when we made laws how they can ask for help with safety and prevent, but it was so vitally important. I mean, first of all, anything with a motor, jet skis, they don't belong with swimmers. So the first law I passed was they had to be 500 feet away from a bathing area. I mean, they would come in to ride the waves, and people were bathing there. I mean, when they first came out, we had people from Oceanside that died, and we did a whole package of bills for boat safety.
Yes.
Very
and
important.
I couldn't fit them on here.
No, I know that.
So there was a lot, but this is just the first three.
Right.
And as you said, boat safety. I mean, I think you're getting a driver's license to drive a car. You should have a license to drive a boat. I mean, you're in the water, but you should know the rules.
Yeah, and they should have a course prior to operating it.
Of course.
And we made them train people to use the vessel before
Right.
they sold it.
Yes, of course. I would think that's
Yeah,
important.
very, especially in our area.
Yes, exactly. We live by the water.
Well, there's a picture that speaks for itself. Tom DiNapoli sat right behind me. He was the chair of environmental conservation. He was a great human being, a great caring person. And I'm very proud to say that we were best of friends. He only got 4 million votes this last election. When the state officers, the attorney general, the governor, I mean, he always gets the top vote. He's in charge of the pension. He is the finest human being that you can really meet, who cares about people. And he stood up his environmental leadership. The things that he did in that committee saved Long Island in many, many ways, protected many of our projects on Long Island. But as the controller of the state of New York, he's doing a heck of a job. And he's so good. And it's unfortunate that he doesn't get the cooperation from people above him in some respects that he should have, and the admiration. But I'm just turning to Tom DiNapoli is probably the most popular person in the state of New York for the job and caring of the people and the job that he does in protecting our resources. Terrific man.
And of course, this resolution comes from the senator. And it's for you.
And the assembly too, by the way. It was joint.
It was joint?
Yes.
Okay. So, but I just love the fact that they were able to not just give you a plaque, but you know, it's so nice when someone acknowledges all the years that you have put in public service from the day that you started. I mean, you've been lifeguarding, you've been teaching, you have been coaching, you have been there for all these children in more ways than I can count. Children with disabilities, our regular children, our adults, people who need help depend on somebody like you. And to be complimented with 60 years of, or more than 60 years of public service is a beautiful thing.
Todd Kaminsky, our senator from Long Beach. This is a joint resolution that was given to us for 67 years of public service. John Flanagan, who was the head of the Senate, you know, they had senators, Democrats and Republicans from both houses on YouTube. It was one of the most moving speeches by political people where it brought in not only caring, but the love of who we are and what we do for helping people. I mean, it was what the institution is all about. You know, if you're a legislator and you're in Albany, you're worse than a used car salesman. You know, people are angry and upset, but there are so many people that are there that are so dedicated. You know, and I always say this: you got to be careful. And I said this: don't let this job take over your life, because it does. And that's if you're dedicated and you're caring about people, with the adversity that is being put upon people, it takes over your life. You don't sleep, you're thinking all the time. But the thank you, I mean, like the historian said to me, nobody ever got an honor like this. And I said, it's the institution. That's the way it should be. Unfortunately, politics takes over government. And here's your quote here: when politics takes over government, there is no government. Look what's happening at every level of government in this country.
You see my sign on my computer?
That's it.
So let's go one more. And of course, I love this painting. It's beautiful. I want to close with the beauty and the love and the sharing that you and your wife, Ellen, have given to us in every way. In a district-wide final budget as of 2012, and that's including all our territories: Atlantic Beach, Island Park, East Rockaway, Lido, Point Lookout, the 5 towns, Oceanside, and special programs, was given about $5,688,875. Long Beach received $7,400,826. So that's over $13 million. The budget restorations in your time in office, and I say restoration, I mean budgets that were taken away and you fought to have them put back. So they were restored. I couldn't do the numbers because I'm terrible at numbers. So I asked my colleague and she ran the numbers for me. We're all close to $1 billion. I'm going to read the number: 945 billion. How many is that? 445,550,848. So close to $1 billion of restoration money. That's incredible. And the last and not least, Harvey and Ellen Weisenberg's Foundation, who produces a special needs app which connects families and caregivers for nonprofit agencies and information. I know you have an emergency service, and the foundation donations from 11 to 2020 have been $678,131. So that's a huge amount of money. And you're doing beautiful work. You're still doing work. You're out in the city, you're walking, you're talking to the people. People stop you in the street to talk to you because they know you forever. They love you. And they always have a story. And you always have a story to tell them. But the greatest one is the one about your service and what you think about service. Say it.
You know, it's funny, you work two jobs, but I really feel it. And I don't know if people can understand, but the reality is, and I'm sharing this, again, it's not being an elected official and a public servant. It's not about the power and the money that you're involved with. It's the thank yous that you get for helping people that will stay with you, because there's nothing more meaningful. You know, I mean, you can cry because what you see, and you see the pain and suffering and how difficult life is for so many. And if you can help somebody, I mean, that's a gift. That's what this is all about. It's called public service. So I hope that we learn to elect people that don't think about party politics. They don't think about the power that they have or how they can abuse or not use it. It's about helping people, and the thank yous you get that put you there. Otherwise, you don't belong there. And I'm telling you, and I'm ending this in a statement as a former teacher saying, the conditions that exist in our country today is my opinion that it's like the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. When the values change and when we're doing things that are detrimental to the health and safety of people. I mean, I can't understand how, being the head of the Drug and Alcohol Committee, that all the research and talking about marijuana and how it impacts health on young people and whatever. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about, look at the money that we can raise. This is what's out there, funding money, save money. And the answer really is, hey, we're going to have gambling, right? Gambling, raise money. We're going to have drugs, going to have alcohol, you have cigarettes. I'm saying, look at all the things and the violence. What is happening and what are the consequences? So let's get people together and think about what's really important, how people can work together, give respect to each other. I mean, we're all human beings. We're the intelligent things, animals. And I always say this from being a lifeguard. And I hope, and I try to teach kids 16 years old, when you see a nest in eggs and you see a bird sitting on an egg for 6 weeks and another bird relieving that bird sitting on that egg. And then when the egg matures and the chick comes out, how they take care of the chick, take it out of the sun. And because we're Cedars in Long Beach, if a bird, you come to an area where the birds are, how a bird will come out of that nest and show that he is wounded to distract you, to take you away from the nest to protect the bird that's there or the egg that's there. And I said, look at what's there. And then you know what? Then that bird flies and that baby's in, that chick is in the air. A year later, they come back, families together. And I'm saying, that's what life is all about. I mean, I wish more human beings would think about how wolves take care of their pet. They don't kill, they kill to eat. And our people will learn to live together, to help each other like it used to be in the 50s and 60s. I mean, I always say, and I see this now when I think about World War II, the 18 and 19-year-olds that were slaughtered, that were killed. Who wins a war? Nobody wins a war. We got that mountain. We lost these people. We took that mountain. 2 days later, we left that mountain in Korea. And for what? Nobody wins. I mean, humanity, let's get together. Instead of thinking about how we can defeat and kill each other, let's think about how we can work together and live in and help save our planet, our Earth, with the environment and with caring for each other. Yeah. Anyway, I thank God. And I know I'm going to shoot. I say, being a good Jewish boy, I go to church often across the street. I go into church, it's a house of God, and I thank God for what we had. And I tell people when they tell me about the loved ones they lost, I said, don't think about it as a loss, think about what you had and the blessing that you had. So that's all, thank God for who we are, what we have, and work together. At this time, I really would like to acknowledge the wonderful people that work for the city of Long Beach, how they service the needs of our community, whether they're union or non-union. Many of them live here. And when people work here and live here, they take a special interest in trying to accomplish what their goals are to make this Long Beach, our city, a place that people would really think about as the best place in this world to be. I always say God gave us a beach, a boardwalk, and the people that live in Long Beach. And these people who service the needs of our people with sanitation, highway, beach maintenance, any and all aspects of providing a quality of health and safety for the community. I just want to say God bless them and thank you on behalf of all the people that live in our city. And then I would like to bring to view a group that was so near and dear to my heart in Albany. I spent with Ellen, we were up there for 25 years. And we met a group between 20 and 30 people that work up there, all with disabilities, autism, physical disabilities. They're known as the messengers. They paid, and I know some of them retired. And for the 25 years that we were there, we know them as young and as older people as well. But these messengers were the best, most competent people that were servicing the needs of the Assembly and the State Senate. They would deliver the mail to everybody, 150 Assembly offices and all the 50-something Senator offices, and they would just the most reliable. And when I saw how wonderful these people with disabilities were servicing and doing their job, they were probably the most competent people in my mind, servicing the people of the state of New York. I mean, when you talk about miracles and wonderful people who have a desire to work and achieve, I mean, there was a youngster with autism, and if I would say to him, 50 years from today, what day will it be? And he would say, and he would tell me the day. We'd look on a calendar and he would be right. So, you talk about gifted people who have wonderful opportunities to be able to create and accomplish. These people with disabilities are a great model for the state of New York and for the world. Our messengers in the state of New York are just the most wonderful people. The diversity of the people serving in this capacity is everywhere and everyone. But let's all just say God bless you all and thank you for your service.